Hey little critter, hey little critter, hey little critter, hey, hey, hey.
I don't think I know anybody who would like to be called a little critter.
You ever seen that My Life and Kids?
Yes.
That's where I got that from.
Well,
But what is up? What is up, everybody? I am your girl, the princess of all.
and Kujo speaks.
And we are here on the Good Time Show. The Good Time Show. Take you where you want to go on the Good Time Show. If you don't already know. If you don't already know.
You better ask somebody.
You better ask somebody.
I'm going to start this off early and tell everybody to share this live, share the YouTube, share the Facebook. Those of you listening on the radio side, call your friends, text your friends, tell them to tune in.
Share me, honey.
Not just because we want everybody to hear our voices, but today is going to be a deep and heavy conversation. One that is talked about, yes, but I honestly don't feel like it's being taken seriously because of
my hair.
the amount of death that is happening. Constant and frequent loss of life that is happening in general, that's happening in hip hop, that's happening to our Black people all around the world and this country specifically, which is happening to people in general. There's too many people dying, man. Way too many.
There's so many of us dying.
Way too many.
Yeah, today's show is gonna be just, I want to say, more of a question. Like, it's gonna be a million questions.
Yeah.
If I can give you 21 questions, I want you to me all the time. Like, because we're throwing out questions because hopefully someone somewhere out there, somewhere over the rainbow, that too, they'll find the answers.
There has to be a place where this starts, where the beginning of the end has to start somewhere.
Yeah, it has to be a conversational piece.
Yeah, I mean, but I think more than just conversations at this point, because this conversation has been happening for a long time. I feel like there needs to be a start to action. So, and there's a way for, people always say, well, it's never going to happen in this country and this, that, and the other thing. Well, I mean, certain things have to start with every individual, right?
That is true.
So, at least if I know for myself, there are things that are going to change starting today, and I will bluntly say them on air throughout the show. They are my calls to action. They are the things that I will hold myself to as a part of this change. And I hope that everybody listening and everybody that we can get engaged in this conversation will commit to changing certain things or, becoming a part of this change. Because it honestly, if we don't, it's never going to stop.
Yeah.
It's never going to stop.
I completely agree. It's definitely something that we have to. I muted my mic. Let me know if you guys hear feedback on the.
Show got
Oh my God, I'll put my puppy show. But it's definitely one of those things that the reason why I say start with questions is because we have to pinpoint the real problem in order to be able to make a plan of action to solve these problems. And I feel that a lot of the conversations have been more of like gossipy and not more of like getting to the root
Honestly,
of the problem.
I feel like when these conversations happen, more often than not, it's more blame in the conversation.
Yeah,
people are
that's
blaming this, blaming that, and pointing fingers instead of trying to find a worthy solution, or at least not even a solution, just a game plan. Like everything takes time, right? So of course, you know, especially something of this magnitude is going to take some time to create the change, but change has to start and has to be consistent if you actually want it to work.
Yeah.
So I really want us to at least for you and I to start by making exactly that's the hugest thing we need, to be real with you. If we start our own, what's the word I'm looking for? Intentions, and set our intentions and set our ways that we are going to try to make a dent or a difference. I believe every individual can make a huge difference, especially if we're all together. That is, everyone ends up having the same mission, and we are the difference.
And I feel like we've had this conversation time and time again. Like, this is not a new conversation for us for the Good Time Show. I mean, these type of conversations of, you know, changing, you know, the future, you know, giving back and just being kind and, you know, helping one another and being courteous and having feelings. Like, these have been conversation pieces that we've had numerous of times on our show. So today is not going to be any different. I do want to start the show off by saying, make sure you guys check out 3JS Creative Group. Okay, if you guys need LLCs, some business consulting advice, you got a business that you're trying to put together, you don't know what to do, make sure you guys contact them and check them out, and as well as my Lifeline Center. If anyone out there is struggling with substance abuse, mental health, relationship, parenting advice, and you guys need a place to go, make sure you guys go to mylifelineCenter.com. They are taking online appointments, e-visits, and things like that, because our mental health comes first as well in a lot of these situations.
That's a very good segue into just busting this thing wide open. I think
bust it wide open.
I think a lot of what's happening in let's start with Black America. Now, throughout this conversation, we will be talking about all races. I'm talking about human beings in general, people killing people. It's the worst plague that we have in this country right now. But let's talk about Black people in general right now. I feel like a lot of the problem is our mental stability, our mental health, getting help. I think a lot of these deaths, a lot of these shootings all surround the Black male ego in general.
I think any ego, male ego and female female ego, not female email. Because let's not be frank. I don't know where that came from, but I'm gonna keep saying it because we asked this question and nobody told me where Frank came from. But to be frank about it, women kill off of emotion and, you know, egotistic and, oh, you're not gonna play me, just as well as men. So I'm not gonna put it all on men, but what we have to, our goal by the end of this show, for everyone who's listening and watching, if you're just now chiming in, if you're in your car, we do not do the whole initiation. It is 15 minutes after the hour, 4:15 on the east, or 1:15 on the west,
and 3:15.
Boom, because Kujo knows it best. Because we're so ready to get into this topic, y'all. And Jamin said, "Busted." Yes, we're busting. Yeah, we busting in the Bentley bag of. It's the up. If it's up, then it's up, then it's up, then it's stuck. But our overall goal is to come to some type of conclusion for all kinds.
I mean, because let's be real. Like, if you hear my voice sound a little shaky right now, it's because I literally am emotional about this. Like, when I think about this situation, I think about my babies, right? I think about all of my kids in the world that we currently live in, right? And it's hard for me to tell my kids that I want them to be successful and I want them to have wealth and I want them to shine, because I know the way this world works these days, and the more they shine, the more someone's gonna want to go take what they got. And I gotta worry about my babies getting shot because they had, you know what I'm saying? Because I told them to shine. You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense to me.
So I want to start with, okay, before we talk about the gun violence and it all, I want to start with the simple fact of what do they call it? When you're like, you don't have any emotion.
Lack empathy.
Yeah, when you lack empathy.
I don't know what the general phrase for it is.
Yeah, I don't know what the general phrase, but I'm saying this to say,
sociopaths lack.
not sociopaths, but bottom line, what I'm trying to say is we need to stop posting people's last final dying moments on the internet.
Did you see what Gilly the Kid posted? You see his video?
Yeah, and I'm just talking on all
desensitization.
Yes, desensitizing. That's what I was looking for. So even when it comes to what is that one? I cannot remember her name. When she died in the car crash, she burned. She got into the crash. I can't think of her name.
Talking about the actress?
Yeah, the actress. I can't think of her name. But even her, and for instance, you know what I'm saying? These are people still, moms, daughters, sisters, cousins, aunts. No one wants to see their last moments of them, burned, jumping out of a body bag, or, their body reacting or flinching or jumping. And I understand as a media outsource and as a media outlet, it's your job to inform, your listeners, your viewership. But leave that up to people to go research when it comes to like the police departments and research it then. You know what I'm saying? Because to a certain extent, some of these people don't find out about their loved one's death until they see it.
And I'm not
because
gonna
once
lie,
it gets
I'm
posted,
guilty. I'm guilty. I've seen those. I look for them sometimes.
But we watch them because they're posted. But if you can't find it, you're just gonna be like, oh, okay, whatever.
Right. So, for instance, if you went online and tried to find the Kobe helicopter crash, you didn't find those pictures, right? Because his family and his people and everybody who loved and cared for that man made sure that wasn't out there.
Exactly.
But everybody else, no matter who you are,
that was the actress.
No matter who you are, if you died somewhere and somebody had a camera, they're gonna splatter it all over. Michael Jackson's family didn't know he died so fast.
And that's a hard, think about, that's a horrible way to find out that your family member has died or been killed or brutally injured. You know what I'm saying?
So
because once it gets posted, that everyone on social media is going to be tagging the family members.
Yeah.
You don't want to look at that video and see your family member there. I mean, just having common courtesy and empathy, for anybody.
So I was talking to Dre out there about it. And I think to the very nth degree of it, and the most general problem that we have in society today is there is a lack of love for life. There is a lack of people holding life and other people's life, the sanctity of life, near and dear. It's like, I've gotten so desensitized to death because of what I've seen at war, obviously, and then the number of people close to me that have passed. I am desensitized to death to a certain extent, but that doesn't take away from my love and understanding of how precious life is. I just don't think anybody really cares all that much anymore.
And for me, I feel like death is a beautiful thing, right? I know a lot of people may not understand that. People may be like, oh my gosh, how could you say that? Death is something that's inevitable. We cannot dodge it. It's going to happen. That's just the way the world works and the way that life goes. Now, the way that people die is a tragic death. You know what I'm saying? That's the gruesome part. But you have to think about it. As much as we think it's okay to post adults in their last dying moments or, dying in their blood, think about all of the school shootings. Yeah. If someone was to come out with a picture of your child and then how upset would you be? You get what I'm saying? Right. So I feel like to a certain extent, some of these blogs, you lose a little bit of humanity when you're posting those type of things, because now the families have to relive it over and over again.
We've never been, if you've been following us for any amount of times or you're a fan of the show, you know that we don't post anything like that. We don't glorify anything like that, and we definitely will not and will never post things like that.
No.
But
I can't even fathom.
My first declaration that I will make to make a change is I will no longer be viewing those type of videos. I won't be researching them. I won't be trying to see what's in the video. I to this day, when the whole thing that just happened, I'm like, oh, the video's out. Let me see what's in the video. I'm no longer doing it. Smoke Jones in the building. And Eva, by the way. Lauren Dibb says we're desensitized by faces of death. I remember when that came out. You ever seen
What's
that one?
Faces of Death?
So back in, way back, like high school days, you don't want to Google that. Faces of Death was all like the most raw, gruesome videos of death.
Oh, I
Like
see
it would
this.
show people's faces getting blown off and all these like the first time
Was
you
that
could see
was it a
uncensored-
website?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember
Yeah.
the website because I remember people used to go on there and it would be like,
Man.
oh, it would be like cats getting mangled and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
It was
and,
all out.
and I
And-
never went on it, but I heard about it.
I don't know what it is about young males, but it's like that kind of seeing that kind of taboo stuff. It's almost I would equate it to watching porn because it's taboo.
Okay, Dahmer.
It's taboo.
My bell.
That's
My bell.
why a lot of times, right?
Boom.
A lot of
Cool.
times when you go around that comes no. When you go
Y'all had the dark web in
courts and stuff like that,
1862.
you know what?
I'm like, wait, the dark web was out
He calling me old.
1862.
If you look at all of like doctors and psychiatrists that look at serial killers and people that do things like that, that's one of the first things they look for is do you have an addiction to pornography? Do you like seeing taboo, whatever the kind of things like that, right? So
All being nasty.
it is, and Faces of Death. I'm glad you brought that up because that is, to me, I think that is a big part of why internet and access to things like that has desensitized people too, and that's what led into people wanting to see videos like that.
And it's also not having conversations with our children at young ages about death as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, growing up, I maybe can count on one hand the amount of funerals my parents actually let me ever go to, because they made, seeing dead bodies or funerals like not like a taboo thing, but it wasn't something that they wanted me to get accustomed to as a child. But they had conversations with me as well, which is what I do with my children. I have conversations with them because these kids are playing, killing video games a lot earlier. They're seeing, heads blow up a lot earlier. So they don't know how to separate reality from a video game, from a fiction. So when you have these young kids who are, let's just say, school shootings and all those things, they don't understand how finalizing shooting someone is, how finalizing death is. It's something that you can't come back from because they see it on the video game. Oh, I killed this person, and they come back on the game and we get to play again. They don't understand that because no one's having those conversations with them to be able to say, hey, listen, this is a once in a lifetime thing. It happens, it's no going back. This is an altering decision making.
If you're lucky enough growing up, nobody that close to you passes, so you don't really understand. Like, maybe a grandma that you barely really knew and you're so young, or you hear about people on the news dying, but it's that that feeling of, oh, it won't happen to me, or oh, I don't know what I would do if that was in my town, or it's not until it becomes close to the chest or close to your neighborhood or too close to home that it really starts to kick in.
Yeah. Rotten.com. Let's see. Ty said, I agree, Princess. Death is inevitable and we must accept that at one point or another we will be impacted / affected by death, and no matter how much preparation it's going to hurt. And that's true. He said, boys in the hood want to see a dead body.
And this Jason C was something, I got his name all hacked up last time. One of my favorite artists. He said, it was real life for me. So for you, I guarantee for you, you understand far more the impact and the reality of death than a lot of younger people get to at that point. People that have seen death like that at a young age, it's a reality for you far more than it is for everybody else.
Yeah. And for me, the only time I've ever seen a dead body was at a funeral. And then on social media. Once I was older, I think it was maybe 3 years ago, the first time I seen a dead body in a video, you know what I'm saying? And that was on video, and that was traumatizing. I was like, oh my God, I cannot watch that. So for people to have experienced these things in real life, I mean, it's very, very tragic, and it's something that, it does change you forever. And that's why I said it goes on to the mental health of, talking about it and getting help about it, because it is something that changes your mind, your emotions, your everyday to day of how you just go about things, because then it becomes a norm and then you're numb to it. And I'm not saying that it's nothing wrong with being numb to death, because again, it's something that has to happen, and it's just one of those things that's like, hey, I'd rather appreciate them while they were alive. For me, I'd rather keep those memories of the good memories that I have with them instead of seeing those bad memories. But I could not imagine if my family members' dying moments, or even if they were in the hospital sick or car accident or whatever, was floating all around the internet for people to do commentations over on green screens and talk about and circle objects of, oh, look, he did have this in his hand. Like, whoa, where? First of all, most of y'all don't even have y'all high school diploma, let alone a GED. When did you become an FBI agent?
But that's the problem, though. So, and here's why today's conversation is going to be very expansive, but at the same time focused, because everything all in one is what the problem is. And I think I don't want to be like every other conversation where you're pointing the finger at one thing or another. Because although Smoke says, why does Facebook censor certain language and not videos of violence and murder? Although that is very true.
That is true. I report them.
Media as a whole, and in the whole shock and awe to get numbers thing, that alone is just a fraction. A small fraction of what this problem is. When you really go down to the root of things, and I really want to.
We're digging like layer, but
it's the fact that it happens to me is the problem. Which in today's day and age, everybody wants to point at all the other factors and everything around it. And just like with the whole Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, like you guys are arguing about something that's not even the reason why we're here. You know what I'm saying? So yes, media does blow things up, and they show the worst of the worst, and they are all accountable for that. I think media is a part of why younger and younger we get sensitized to a lot of that stuff. I feel like the media is a lot of times why these younger, underprivileged kids, not only just African American kids, I know some white kids that have picked up guns and shots at people too. They make it okay. It makes it look okay. It makes that glamorous life, that hood life, that gangster life look okay, and it makes them want that because they think that's all they have, because that's what they see, and they don't have anybody else to teach them differently.
No.
So they're watching that on TV, or they're watching that in the news, or they're seeing in music, they're seeing these individuals that are living these lifestyles be glorified. So why wouldn't they go down that route? For one, it's easier, and nobody's telling them not to. And it's easy to get the drugs, and it's easy to get the guns, and it's easy to make the money to go do all this, that, and the other. And there's nobody to change that.
And that's where it goes into that parenting. You know what I'm saying? Of having those conversations. And in some, situations, did we read Tyler's comment that you posted? Media outlets and people as a whole need to stop sharing videos of images of people's last moments. These are moments that need to be shared or even reshared. And I completely agree with that. But it goes into the parenting, like we were just talking about with Jay, that anger and stemming, down and down. If they don't have anybody there to have that conversation with them, to tell them, hey, this is reality, this is not reality. You're basically learning off of the internet, off of what you saw reshared, what you think is cool, and what's being influenced to you. And it depends on your neighborhood and your area that you lived in or you grew up in, unfortunately. But where are the resources? You know what I'm saying? When you watch stuff like, did you watch Snowfall?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you watch Snowfall, right? That's the exact conversation that we were just having with Jay, right? If they're showing this in a movie, do not think, or a TV show, do not think that they did not really run these experiments and these tests. You know what I'm saying? The CIA was flooding the streets with drugs and guns. And when it came down to it, he could sell Franklin off in a heartbeat, and all of them getting shot, killed, your whole lives are turned upside down, and he just goes to find another, CI to replace you after you've been killed and your whole life is uprooted. Like, come on, man.
The sad part. Okay, so that show should show you a lot of things. If you guys are gonna, thank you, Smoke. I appreciate that. If you guys are gonna look at TV and movies and all of that and find all his influence from the negative side of it, in that show Snowfall, he went to college first.
Yeah.
He was very educational. He had a lot of education, and he went back to the hood and decided for himself to take this route and do the things that he did.
But then when you think about on Snowfall, as much work as it took him to run an illegal business and get shot, you could have took all that energy to run a proper business and not have to get shot or risk your life or lose homies. Like, I feel like a lot of the times we think that getting out of these situations is the best way to, go be a rapper or go be a basketball player or be a gangster. You're actually putting yourself in more of a predicament because whatever movie you've ever watched, storyline you've ever seen, there's only two places they end up dead or in jail. I don't care what gangster show, what mobster show that you've ever seen. Those are the only two places that I've ever seen. And it's very, very rare that they actually get away, get out, live, and something still doesn't come back to haunt them later on in life and they still end up dead.
So the parenting thing, we're talking about parents teaching their kids that this isn't the way to go. Like, nah. So Jason said, I don't know if it's a parenting thing. My parents themselves saw JFK, MLK, RFK shot to death on live TV. They're already desensitized to it. I'm not saying that people get desensitized by their parents to death. I'm saying they have no parents or their parents aren't teaching them that killing people and picking up guns and going the hood route isn't the correct way to go. Because let's be real. I don't care what nobody says. It's not the right way to go. Yeah. It's never the right way to go. You can argue all day long that in certain hoods, that's the only way, and you got to, no, you don't. I don't care what nobody says. You can call me lame, you can call me cheeseball, you can call me whatever you want. You ain't grow up in the hood. I don't give a shit. It's not the way, dog. It's never the way.
I mean, and I feel like that, okay, so that is the part that I did like on Friday. I don't know which Friday it was, but it was on one of them when the dad was like, put that down and use this. You know what I'm saying? Like, at what point did we move away from protecting yourself with your hands and your fists? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know it sounds real corny and people are probably gonna be like, girl, shut up. This is not the system, but let's dance battle it out. You know what I'm saying? Let's do a one-on-one and battle it out. You know what I'm saying? Because at least with that, you have integrity. You have lives lived. You have people that can walk away from a situation because I don't care where you are, who you are, whatever situation, that bullet has no name on it. You know how many kids, children, adults, babies die from stray bullets? I don't care if it's coming from a police officer, a regular Joe Schmo, a gangbanger, a rapper. It doesn't matter. When that bullet leaves that trigger, it has no name on it, and you do not truly know the destination of that bullet. So do not file or pull or draw your firearm unless it's like literal life or death, like army, and it's like.
So let's put it this way. It frustrates me so bad. Like, and I know people, when I bring up that I've been to war and all that stuff, right? Everyone's like, oh, well, you shouldn't have been there anyway. We're fighting the white man's war, and then why are we fighting when we shouldn't be able to? Okay, I understand all that stuff. Point being is I was there, right? And when I was walking around for 7.5, almost 8 months with a loaded M16A2 rifle, I never had to pull that rifle. Even though we had bombs being dropped on us, there was gunfire happening outside the gate, this, that, and the other thing. Like, there was plenty of times where I thought I might have to use it, and the whole time I prayed so hard that I never had to because I knew what that would do to me. I knew if I had to take life with my own hands, I knew what that would change me forever. Yeah. So I don't understand how individuals are in love with that feeling or can't wait to do that.
What, with their bare hands?
To shoot people. Just to take another life in
general. I was like, wait, what are we?
I would much rather fight someone off and kill them with my bare hands than shoot somebody.
Because I feel like you have more pride. Like, it's more work behind that. It's no work behind pulling the trigger. I would rather
protect myself and kill you with my bare hands, and I'm like, it was me or you. Not pull a gun out and say it's me or you, pow. This ain't the Wild West.
He said, you're right. I'm saying your good parenting is not going to protect kids from bad faith actors. Right. It can, but usually doesn't. And yeah, I'm not saying that, parents can stop everything, because at the end of the day, parents can only do so much. You know what I'm saying? When their kid steps into that real world, they can't put blockers on them. And so I'm not saying that like, oh, parents and stuff. I'm just saying like as children, when those type of situations happen or come about, being able to teach your kid how to process their emotions. And so I'm starting from a baby, because once you're able to learn how to process your feelings, whether it's from a teacher, a family member, a parent, a sibling, someone, you're able to know how to control your anger. A lot of the times people in these situations, they don't know how to control their anger. They don't value themselves. They don't know how to manage. They don't value other people. They don't know how to manage their ego. So therefore, if somebody pop off and somebody say the wrong thing to them, they're just reacting. And it ends up in someone losing their life.
So here's the major issue. Here's what we have to do. And unfortunately, it can't be done by just 1, 2, 3 people or just a small group of people. Everybody has to get behind doing this for our world to truly change. You have to teach your kids, and even your, these young adults, these young men who are in this life, you got to teach them that everybody else's lives are valued, that there is another way for you to survive, that you don't have to go get a switch and go shoot your op to get respect so you can get bread. And there's a different way to live life.
Even when you think about, school shooters or, or all those, like, it's another way. You don't have to shoot up the whole entire school and make people who did nothing to you pay because you're hurt, or, someone treated you wrong, or someone did not do the righteous thing by you. Violence is never the key. Violence is never going to solve anything. It's just going to put a Band-Aid over the situation and make other people bleed even more. And that's what people are not realizing in all of this. I don't care what realm of the world it is, because there are some people out there in the world who, I'm sorry, unfortunately, they don't even know who a takeoff is. They don't even know who a PNB rock is. You know what I'm saying? Because they surround themselves differently. Their news is completely different. And, I hate to say, just in the Black culture, but when you look at, the politicians and those kinds of things, their crimes may be, stealing millions of money. We just rigged the system. You know what I'm saying? But they're not taking each other's lives. You know what I'm saying? Money is something that you can get back. Jewelry is something that you can replace. Cars is something that you can replace. Status is something that you can replace. You can lose your status and gain your status. Power is something that you can gain and resurface. But a life, you cannot get that back. I don't care what the scientists say, what they try to do, transplant, put it here, put it there, preserve it. You cannot get that life back. And I think once people start to understand that, then we can make better decisions, And then there's another story of a shooting in Chicago on Halloween. I mean, like,
which I didn't even hear about that until you told me about that.
Yes, and it's like, unfortunately, it got overlooked because Takeoff recently was, killed as well. But it was 14 shots, injuring 3 children in a drive-by shooting. It's no reason why kids are getting harmed going out trick-or-treating. Now, I don't care if you don't celebrate Halloween, if you think it's the devil's holiday, whatever. But children, come on now. Like, where do we draw the line with this violence and this reckless violence at that? I mean, like, look, what was the purpose? What was the purpose?
Did they catch the person, or are they still at large?
I think they are still looking for them.
And that's what I'm saying. Like,
they're all wounded. I don't think anyone. It says at least 14 people, including 3 children, were shot in a drive-by on Monday night on a busy corner in Chicago, where people had gathered for a visual. And investigators are trying to find the shooters. 2 people traveling in a dark SUV opened fire on Halloween night at a people on the corner of California Ave and Polk Street at 9:30 p.m. before the vehicle was driven away. A 15-person, a woman, suffered scrapes from the vehicle who struck her as she tried to break free.
You said it was at a vigil?
Yep.
So it was someone who got murdered, and whoever
it's like a
responsible for murdering them decided to come get the rest of the
family. A 3-year-old boy,
11-year-old
boy, and a 13-year-old boy were among those that were shot, police said.
Y'all can call me soft all you want. I'll never understand or condone or stand behind any of this. I just don't understand what the point is. I'm really tired of seeing people die for no reason. I mean, I don't know these people personally. I don't know these people personally at all, but it sucks just as bad watching them go because they didn't have to. Look, there's so much other stuff on this planet that's trying to kill us already. You got the COVID,
the food,
you got the food,
swine flu,
you got cancer,
you got monkeypox,
you got life insurance, you got age, you got all of this stuff. It's gonna kill you. AIDS, all of it. It's all
kids.
Kids is definitely to the stress and the heart attacks and all of it, man. So I just, and I've always said that. Like, I don't understand what, even when I did go to war, I didn't condone us killing people. I didn't condone that at all. I didn't even think we should necessarily be over there because that's all that was happening is they were dying, we were dying. There was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was 52 of us. That's American soldiers over there that passed during the time I was there for the 7.5 months that I was there.
Wow.
That's 52 more people than it needed to go. I watched like 32 of them at one time get loaded into airplanes and sent home. And this wasn't in the caskets. This wasn't in the caskets draped by the American flag looking all cute. This was on the litters when they brought their bodies back to the base to be put into those caskets. Wrapped up in cellophane, not even covered all of them. Let's get real. Not even covered all of them. Pieces of a person on a litter, not even looking like a human. You wonder why I'm all jacked up? That's why. And there's people, you're telling me there's people on this planet, in our country, that are running up and blasting people's heads off and shooting people and enjoying this? You enjoy that? What is wrong with you?
That's the part that I don't understand. Well, and I guess it goes back into just that feeling emptiness of they don't value life. Some people really think life is a game.
I don't understand where that comes from. Like, at what point you're not born as a baby with that. I don't think. Maybe there are some people who have a psychotic gene or something, or whatever the case may be, or they're not born with all of their screws and they just grow loving death and all that. That's possible. I don't know, I guess.
I mean, it could.
But the majority, it's hard for me to believe that the majority of people will come out just evil and just want to see death and destruction. I believe there's more good on this planet than there is bad, but I think the good is being overshadowed by the bad because the bad is what everybody wants to see. That's what entertains everybody. That's what makes money. That's what people are going to watch and look at.
But as much as we say that, and I'm not even gonna hold us accountable because I feel that us as a network, we do our due diligence to make sure that we are the change that we want to see in the world. All of our shows, all of our radio personalities, when it comes said and done, we may joke and we may poke fun at certain situations, but we all have a genuine equally respect for one another, for life. We want to see people do better and, uplift people. And I think that it does stem sort of from the media, because when you think about a lot of these, killings, right, or shootings or any of these things, it's certain people idolizing and wanting that attention that other people got. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I watched the Jeffrey Dahmer, I finally watched the last 2 episodes, and that guy who was trying to be like Dahmer afterwards, like after Dahmer had went to jail and everything, and he was like trying to do the whole Dahmer thing because why? He didn't have any control in his life. He didn't feel valued. So what did he do? He watched the story. He watched the news. He saw it playing out. He saw how much attention they got. He saw how much Dahmer was sending him. They were sending him fan mail. So hey, I want to get fan mail.
Here's the thing I hate about a lot of media as well. It's the details that they tell.
Yeah.
The man was finding him at the club and he was slipping this drug into their drinks unannounced, and then he was taking them to their house and he was doing it. Why are you giving them the playbook?
Thank you. But
all that's not necessary.
This is why and where people have to use their brains and open their eyes. So when it comes to murder cases, right, or people harming and all those kinds of things, they tell you exactly what gun, what drug they use, and all those things. But if you want to start a business and you want to file a paperwork for a grant or to get a loan to help yourself out, oh, they're not going to tell you word for word what document you need, how to fill it out, what to put in the lines properly so that you get approved and that you can get this loan. But they're going to tell you exactly how somebody killed somebody and what they cleaned it up with the blood. Yeah, Marv.
Yeah, Marv.
What's up, Marv? Oh, he just going to say Kujo like he'll see me on the live. Like he'll see me on the live. Okay, Marv. I see you, Marv.
I need my beard trimmed up.
But yeah, so that's just what people have to use, and that's why I said the media is at fault for some of these things, because how they depict it to people who may not have the right brain, cells to register those things. You're giving them that satisfaction that they may need. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're telling them exactly what they're looking for, what they're missing. Right. So I do blame the media to a certain extent, not our media company, because we don't do that. We put it out there.
Honestly, I think media is a lot of the problem. I'm gonna call out all media. I'm gonna call them all out because you don't hear them having these conversations.
Oh no!
You hear them say the buzz phrases. They tell you what happened. They tell you how it happened.
On to the next.
And a lot of times, to be completely real with you, a lot of times they don't even have the right story. As long as they're the first one to
Did you see? Was that E-News? I think that was E-News.
Was it Offset?
That posted Offset picture.
It didn't even look like Offset to me. I was like, who was this random
Migos member Takeoff killed? And the picture that they chose, to me, it kind of was feeling like y'all did this on purpose, because the picture that they chose of Offset, even before that, it was like he had a face that was like, no, this was wrong. Like the face was like,
no,
okay. And y'all do that.
There's just a lack of care. There's a complete lack of care being given, and a complete lack of respect being given by these media companies. If it was, let's put it this way, for any media company, and I'm gonna be honest, there's not as many people watching this right now as I want to be watching this. So there will be a big campaign of me sending this video around so everybody sees this, especially this part. Everybody in these media companies who are allowing these stories to air, and furthermore, the people who are on air delivering these stories, imagine if that story was about your mother or your brother or your sister or somebody in your family. Now, tell me if you would still do that story
the way you did
somebody in your family. And if you can't tell me you would, then you're absolutely dead wrong for doing those stories. And that's what needs to stop. I feel like there should be some mandates, or there should be some new regulations put in place that are enforced against media companies from putting certain things out like that. Like they have regulations, right, but they're not stringent enough.
They're not
at all.
And we also have to. I mean, and one of the other questions is, and I guess we will fully, technically, never have the answer of why people kill other people, in any type of circumstance, what I'm saying? Because even when you look at Selena, right? She was killed by one of her kind. So it's like,
she was killed by somebody who was like her best friend. She was her business manager. She was a fan that turned into her business manager, and then
she got
caught. And again, she got caught stealing from her.
It goes into what? That ego, that integrity. You were so egotistic, you didn't want to back down at the fact that you were doing something wrong, and she called you out on it. And instead of you just apologizing and being like, you know what, I messed up, let's rekindle this, you go and kill her.
Right.
You killed her. For what? And it's just like when you look at all of, the genres of music, right? When you all of them. So to a certain extent, when Nicki is tripping on, super freaky girl, it's not in the rap. It should be in rap. Nicki, you should be happy that you're in the pop category, girl.
Ain't nobody trying to pop you in the pop category.
Like, we need to understand that the rap genre, rap hip hop, because it don't happen too much in R&B. You know what I'm saying? They sing, they love it, They
Well,
making
Tory-
babies, they
Tory
singing.
Lanez is
He
trying
tried to
turn-
no,
he's
he
trying to
no,
make
he went
R&B.
he
Is
went
he
to the hip hop.
now?
No, he went to
He
hip hop.
crossed over?
He hitting and
He crossed-
shooting. He hip hop. Get on, Tory.
Get out the
You're
R&B
not
game,
R&B.
sir.
You
Once
not over here with
Once
me.
you got a record, you ain't.
Yep. Once you got a record, you hip hop rap. But it's not happening in the R&B, the R&B and
Right.
the pop and the top 40 and the alternative and the country and the rock.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. There may be a lot of other stuff over there, like we talked about earlier, like overdoses and all those kinds of things. But I've seen people come back from overdose.
Yeah.
Gunshot wound to the heads, not so much. So it's kind of that whole question of like, why is it the only hip hop rap culture is the ones that's killing themselves?
Because to me,
culture.
and this is just my opinion, and one of the statistics I've seen, I can't tell you if this is 100% true because it did come from Wikipedia, but it says 51.5% of hip hop deaths are homicide. Now, from looking through all of the people that are on this list, and I'm going to share this list with y'all, and it's going to take a while to read because there are 60 people on this list, and that may not even be all of them. But from the people that I've seen on this list who have been murdered by gun violence in hip hop are people that portray that kind of lifestyle in their music. So you say live by a gun, you die by a gun. Well, if you're rapping about ops and shooting people and this, that, and the other things, and gang banging and selling drugs and whatnot, I feel like the proof in the pudding is that it's coming back around. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't see Jason Derulo getting shot at.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't see Common getting shot at. You don't see.
And I feel like I completely agree with what you're saying. And that list that you're going to read, I don't even have a list of everyday citizens that are dying and getting killed by gun violence. But I feel like it piggybacks off of each other because those people come from a city or a neighborhood where other teens and children and moms and fathers are grieving deaths, but those celebrities who died in, the hip hop rap culture is influencing those youth to think that it's okay for these other parents to still be grieving just as well. So it's like a 50-50 thing. Like, if you're going to give back, and I know people like to hate on him, he a ball hog, he ain't got no hair, I don't care. But LeBron, he knew that he couldn't change his whole entire community. So what did he do? He built a school in that community to give back. Right. You have to start doing something. You can't just be on TV flashing your jewelry. And
a lot of the excuses is that they don't have any resources or no opportunities to get out of the hood. So
he gave them the resources.
School there to give them the opportunities. But the problem is, I think these days, we're too far gone. It's not even the fact that there aren't. Well, but hear me out though. I don't think it's the fact that there's no resources in those neighborhoods anymore and they're fighting to live. This is now the cool way to be. So people idolize.
But they're making it cool. Okay, it's like that kid who, he's a fat kid, but he's going to always tell jokes on himself before other people tell jokes on him so he can make himself feel better. It's now become the cool thing to do because they already know, I ain't got no chance at life, man. I ain't got no resources. You already think that from the start. So if we start to give them more resources, then that mindset will change. Because, okay, LeBron put the school there, it gave them resources. But then when you look at, rappers like Lil Baby and all this kind of stuff, like you're flashing jewelry on interviews and you're telling them, oh yeah, man, you can make it out the hood. How? You not telling me how. But what I'm saying, when they go back and speak to these kids, and I'm not saying that Lil Baby hasn't donated because I don't know what he's doing, but I'm just saying when you are on that stature and the kids in the neighborhoods are looking up to you and you go and you get in $5. Here, man, here go $5. You gonna make it out the hood. Okay, how am I gonna make it out the hood, sir? Right. Are you gonna show me how to get a job? Are you gonna put me in an internship? Are you gonna pay my tuition to school? You give, and I'm not knocking anyone, but I'm just saying we have to be smarter with the things that we choose to invest in within our own community to give each other those resources. He gave, was it Kevin Durant, like $500,000 or something like that? Like, do you know how much money that could have paid sending inner city youth to driver's training so that they can have a license to be able to drive. You know how many kids in the inner city that don't even have their license legally? So if I don't have a legal license, how am I going to drive to school? How am I going to drive to my job? You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying inner cities because it doesn't have to be just blacks. It's multicultural people in the inner cities. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the sad part. I think too in America, the problem is we everything is so race heavy.
Yeah.
Right. So as of right now, we are talking about black on black violence, gun violence, and hip hop in America. We are talking about that, but that doesn't negate the fact that there are still some poor white people that are picking up guns and hanging out right along with the black cats.
And I mean, I know a few Latinos who are struggling just as well within their communities.
I'm more scared of them than I am black people. I lived in LA,
I'm
man.
scared of every human. If you got a heartbeat, you beat me. I'm scared. I'm scared of my children.
Now, there's not a human on this planet I'm scared of when it don't come to weapons. I'll fight anybody. I'll fight you with my fist. I might lose, but I'm not afraid I'm going to lose my life.
I'm not.
I can lose a fight.
I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to figure out how we can come to a mutual agreement.
We're going to talk this
What can I offer you? Let's bargain because I'm not fighting, okay? I am too old and my face is too decent. I say decent because I'm not being too braggy.
That's a good point, Jamin, and let's open that up. So the hood will never be able to improve because the minute someone gives money to that area, things will be more and more expensive for the people to live there.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. Okay.
I'm talking about this on Saturday.
But here's the thing, Jamin. That still doesn't mean somebody's got to pick a gun up and go take somebody else's shit. Yeah. That's what it all comes down to. Like, everybody's pointing the finger at the poverty line, and there not being any opportunities for people in the hoods and whatever the case may be, right? Look at all these other countries, right, that don't have half of the stuff that we have here. Are they shooting each other and taking each other's stuff in the numbers that we are? No, they figure out a way to get by. They figure out a way to do what they got to do to survive, right? And it doesn't have to be at the expense of the next person's life.
Okay, so then, boom, a light bulb just went off in my head, right? Is it, and I hate to always take it back to, slavery and those things, but we have to keep that in our mind in the forefront, right? So when you talk about, why don't a lot of Black people do gentle parenting and all those kinds of things, you have to think about how our ancestors and parents were taught. You did something wrong, you got spanked. That was how you were chastised. So it goes down to teaching. You do this wrong, you get spanked. You get angry, oh, you made me mad, oh, I'm gonna hit you. So therefore it's triggering down, and now it's going into the kids, because we have to break that generational curse of feeling like, hey, just because you're angered, just because you don't feel easy, that does not mean you put your hands on someone else. That does not mean that you harm someone else because they mentally hurt you or they didn't make you feel good. That does not give you the right for violence. But in the Black culture's mind, anything obstructive, don't make me feel good, violence. Mm-hmm. And that's not it. And that's what happens with the inner cities and all these kinds of things. You get angry, oh, it's violence. Even think about families, right? Families get into an argument, boom, it's violence.
Right.
Why is it straight violence? Because I don't agree with you. It's okay to disagree to agree.
Jason said in Mexico, hell yeah, they are. But is that more of the cartels doing their thing, or is it regular citizens going out shooting each other doing that? And I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know. Jamie says y'all need to add me on the line.
I'm about to add you to the
StreamYard.
Well, you'll StreamYard, because if we add you to the live, the radio people won't be able to hear you.
That goes for anybody else on here too. If you guys want to join in on the conversation and be added to the StreamYard, go on our YouTube and comment, shoot us your email. Just keep in mind we are broadcasting on the radio side. Please keep the language to a PG-13-esque way.
Yeah, and I think we'll be having Jay join us shortly as well, because he had some opinions too. Jamin said violence is a defense mechanism. It really is.
But until we teach our, sorry, I get a little hype about this.
Until we teach people otherwise.
it's not just a defense mechanism. Violence has become an offense these days. Like the way being hood, being gangster, proving yourself, and being the man is not just a defense anymore. It used to be like you gotta protect yourself, you gotta be tough. Now it's like you gotta be the man, you gotta be the boss. Like I'm not gonna say no names, but I've been on IG Live for a minute now, and that whole stuff set. And the amount of people I've seen on there professing they're gangsters and threatening each other, I'm a real life gangster. Like that's not dope to me. That's
like what does that mean? What credentials is that going to get you at?
So cool that has become such a way of people to like to
think you're threatening someone.
I don't understand why that's. I pride myself on not being gangster. I pride myself on being the least gangster person in this room. But you know what I can do though? I can handle myself if I need be. If you come for me and mine, I guarantee you, I don't care how gangster you are, it's going down.
That also stems from people having, like I said, that unrealistic filter. When I listen to my husband play Call of Duty, the things that come out of these kids' mouths, because they don't understand that. Listen, you can say
really
this.
Mouth.
Listen, I feel like that's why people be illing like that. Like you ain't never had a butt kicking, and I've never really had a fight. Okay, I don't fight, so I know where my mouth can take me. I'm not just gonna be spewing out reckless things, and that's where I say like these kids don't understand the difference between fake life and real life. Because some of the things they say and some of the things that they do, they're just spilling out evil, not understanding that sometimes they have a repercussion.
What do you mean, Jason? I disagree. I think it's always like that on what proportion.
I know. If you guys are commenting, can you guys like specify your comments because we talk about so much.
Yeah, we
jump
go through
topics.
Conversations real
so
quick.
Sometimes we might be on something else. And the comments I've noticed that they do show up a little late. On the live.
I know for me when I'm trying to comment sometimes on stuff, I'll be trying to type fast as I can to stay in line with it.
I know.
I don't know, man. I think a lot of men or little boys, whatever you want to call them, they pick up guns first, like you said, because they ain't never been hit in the mouth with assault. They're scared to just fight.
For a long time, my mom, she did not let me and my siblings like play with guns or anything like that because again, kids don't understand. That's why you have so many kid shootings where like a kid finds a gun. Jamin, I just text you the link. The kids don't understand like a real gun between fake gun. Like there's his father on YouTube, Instagram. He's been out for quite some time, and he teaches his kids like their civil rights, and like, he teaches them how to like dismantle a gun and enable a gun and all that kind of stuff. Because when you don't have those conversations, look at Jamin waiting. Look at him. Hi, Jamin.
Hey, y'all. Can y'all hear me? Am I good?
Yes, we can hear you. The radio folks can hear you. Instagram live. It don't matter.
It's fine. Hey, y'all. I'm Jamin. I'm the host of the legendary House of Shade on Saturdays. Please listen to me. Love y'all.
Yeah. We got you all riled up.
I'm loving that turtleneck. It's annoying.
Y'all got me a little riled up. Okay, not in a bad way, though.
Look, this is what this conversation was supposed to do. Because honestly, I think we need to start having this conversation maybe once a month or at some level of frequency. Because I feel like I want the people that are the gun-toting, gangster, living that lifestyle individuals. I want them to come on this show, and I want to have these conversations with them.
And it's a free space,
right? I want to understand. I want to understand where they're coming from, and hopefully, we can get to a place where hopefully we can meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
So a lot of this, and the reason why I got really riled up and kind of got really passionate about this is not only the fact that, I've taken, psychology classes while I was in school, but also as somebody that is coming from the inner city. Like everybody that knows me I'm from the east side of Detroit. Like I'm from the deep east side. I'm from the hood. So I've seen a lot of people who go into that lifestyle, people who've glamorized that lifestyle, and people who's lost their lives from that lifestyle. A lot of this stems from, if I see my cousin, if they're like, this big person in that field, right? They got all of this money, they got all of the girls, they got everything. And if I'm not there, I'm gonna be like, oh, I want to do that too. And I'm gonna try to emulate it, right? Yeah. So a lot of people who view these people who glamorize it, they only see the outside of things, right? Once they get into it, right, that's when they realize like, oh, this ain't what it hyped to be, right? But then once you get into it, you can't just get out. You can't just open up door like, oh yeah, I'm a thug now, do this one thing, and you can't just back out. Like once you in that room, you in that room, and you stuck in that room, right? It's an example of this, right, is a lot of people who go to prison for a long time, right? And then once they get out, they're still to go back into it because that's the lifestyle that they're used to. They don't know anything else that's going to help them either elevate their life or not go back to the same mistakes that they made in the past. I got a cousin, he go in and out of jail. I'm like, you must love your roommates.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. And that's how you
know.
Okay, so wait, let me read this comment really quick. Jason said the powers that be are always flashing power to keep power or whatever semblance of power they can. And he was talking about, we asked him to clarify what he was asking. He said, gangster shit. I think like the violence was always the offensive because it's how things were done in Europe and Asia and the Middle East long before the gun was invented. And you were right in the wider sense of things, but that's the people who have studied the world and know the world and know like the art of war and stuff like that. Yeah. These people in these inner cities, they don't know that per se. They're just following what
they see.
They're following the hood rules and the hood law and how things are supposed to be in the hood. They don't know that is something that happens in war.
Because in a lot of situations, people in those inner cities are reacting based upon survival instincts. Like you said, I'm living in this neighborhood, I'm living in this area, so I have to play the role so I can stay alive.
Okay, but still, Jamin, so to your point, you're right. You're absolutely right. And there is a vicious circle and a vicious cycle that has been given to us and hand-fed to us as African Americans in this country, right? It was set up that way to put us in these certain areas, these low rent, low poverty, these poverty areas. We were not allowed to move outside of these lines due to redlining, not allowed to buy certain houses in certain neighborhoods. We were kept caged into our free little domains, not given much, so we were meant to fend for ourselves, right? But here's the problem, though, that lies in that. Although you're in that situation and you have to fend for yourselves and do whatever, now we're taking each other's stuff instead of rising up and getting more for our community, even if it's inside of our own walls or whatever. Instead of us banding together and bringing more into our community, we're pit against each other, right? And we're acting like it's cool and acting like that's what's you're supposed to be the dog on the block. You got to eat. Can't nobody else eat around here but you. You give everybody. Instead of being like, I'm the big dog, why aren't we all the big? Why aren't we a pack of big dogs?
Working
and anybody
together.
Trying to hold us down is going to fill our rap, not each other.
Unfortunately, with that, right? So you brought up a very valid point of like, people stay in these areas because, we weren't allowed to, branch off. We weren't allowed to buy these houses there. We weren't allowed to live all of this, right? Unfortunately, during that generation of a lot of people moving out of the hood or like going to these better areas, right? Because they're like, I'm tired of this lifestyle. The people that were there that were comfortable with that hood mentality, they did a lot of this, emotional manipulation of, oh, you think that you're better than us because, you elevated or whatever. Yeah. You get a lot of people that they stay in the hood because not only is this something that they know, this is something that they're comfortable with. Going back to, my experience growing up on the east side, but then we moved to the suburbs. You know how many of my family like would go after like my parents are like, you guys think that y'all are better because y'all live in the suburbs? My mom is just like, it's not, no, I'm better than y'all. It's I'm trying to better my children's life.
And I think that's the hard part when it comes to the African American community, right? Being okay with someone being better than you or doing better than you, or their time is, a different timing than yours. I always say, no matter what, your time is your time. There's nothing that anybody can do or change to take your benefits and your blessings from you. Right. It don't matter if you put on the same outfit and did the same tap dance. If it's meant for you to shine, you will shine. But that mentality right there is why we can't applaud our people when it's time for them to shine, because they feel like, oh, I have to still have some type of loyalty to, my people, but I also want to change and do better. And it's that whole mindset on anything that we do in life of, you have to be uncomfortable in order to change. Right. Like nothing will ever change if you're comfortable.
It goes from challenges.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think the crappy part of this too, it's not even just a situation of being in the hood versus not being in the hood. That jealousy of someone doing better than you and that ego hurt that people have is why I think a lot of these rappers are dying. Because it's somebody who believes they deserve what that person has or just hates to see that person doing that well. So they're like, I got to humble you and take your place. And I got to show everybody else around here that it don't matter what you got. I'm the man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but are you on the man eating 3 meals a day on yard in that orange jumpsuit? I don't think
a lot of them don't care. A lot of them love that.
Okay.
You know why? Because they still get glorified. They're still getting money put on their books. They're still calling the shots in the hood that they're from.
And that's the hard part. How do you tell kids that a Jeffrey Dahmer was wrong when he's getting fan mail and he's getting money put on his books and all these things? Kids in the city that's like, oh, well, I was being picked on and I thought that this was cool. Oh, he's still getting this. That's living a life. How do you tell them, oh, this is wrong? Or, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of the times, too, I'm so sorry I cut you off, Prince.
No, you're fine.
This is one of those conversations
where the reason why we glorify these dudes that are in the yard, the people who glorify them are people who don't know how to stand up for themselves, right? So, for an example, the example you're talking about, you know, telling kids that Jeffrey Dahmer's wrong, but he's getting fan mail. A lot of those people are, I felt like you defended yourself, XYZ, this inspires me, right? When I was a kid, my mom was like, don't be looking up to them thugs. You better look up to the people who own businesses that got degrees or whatever. Because at the end of the day, the instant gratification of, like, for fighting, because that's what you guys were talking about, I got an instant gratification because I just wanted this fight, right? But then on the long term of things, it's just like now, the repercussions of it.
No, I gotta watch my back. I gotta watch who I hang out with. Are they coming back to retaliate? All these other kinds of things. But when you say that these kids are looking up to these people and they're saying, oh, I felt like you felt, that's the same thing with the inner city rappers, drug dealers, and thugs. That's why I say it goes into the surroundings that you put your kids, you know, around. And I know a lot of the times as parents, it may be hard to send your kid to go live with someone else to put them in a better area. But if their surroundings is better, they're going to understand it more in the long run than as a kid. Because if you're like, for certain parents, I know them who will look at their parents and be like, oh, you said don't look up to the drug dealers, but he just came and gave you $100 because we can't pay our bills and our lights is off. He live in lavish, we live in poor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like the example. How you going to tell me to go to school and get my high school diploma and you dropped out and you don't have this?
Right.
Kids look at their parents.
Don't do what I did. Do it better than I did.
But they don't understand that as kids. They just look at how you gonna tell me to do something that you're not doing, and it's like, well, I'm telling you this because I know clearly.
So and here's what I mean by it takes more of us, right? And that it's our fault because, and I'll blame us too for the music that we play because we do play, or at least we used to, and I hope we stop that today. We play the music that talks about spinning the block and shooting ops and this, that, and the other thing, right? So if we as a culture, if we as the consumers no longer glorify that music and we don't play it and we don't justify it and we don't put it out there, then kids aren't riding to that. Kids aren't living by that. Kids aren't glorifying that kind of action. And then it starts to dwindle. It starts to die because that is no longer the cool way to be. It's no longer, will it kill it all? No, because gangster shit has been around forever without that music even being huge. Yeah. But I feel like it's more widely acceptable now than it's ever been. And I feel like the numbers of people that are doing it, not even just black people from the hoods, I see white kids in the burbs doing all of the same kind of stuff that these hood folks do from necessity. They're doing it because it's cool now.
Can I ask a question to both of you?
What's up?
Because both of you guys are parents, right? You have your kids. You guys tell them what is okay, what is not okay. And because we're talking about, you know, the type of music that is glorifying, obviously, you know, like killing, drug dealing, XYZ. Do we put the blame on the rappers that are promoting this, or do we put the blame on parents for allowing this in their houses?
We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day,
it's the parent.
At the end of the day, for me, at the end of the day, it's about mental fortitude no matter what. Right? Okay. So if I watch a movie about a guy slitting a bunch of people's throats, it's my responsibility mentally to have the sanity enough to know that I can't go slit a bunch of people's throats in society. That's not cool.
Exactly.
So like artists always say, I hear a lot of artists say, it's art, it's music. I'm saying whatever. That doesn't mean you're supposed to go. So to a certain extent, I think they do hold a responsibility to put the correct things out in the world. But to a certain extent, it's on you as a parent to make sure your child has the mental fortitude to know entertainment versus reality. Just because you listen to this music about being a thug and shooting and killing and doing all that kind of stuff, that doesn't mean you're supposed to turn around and emulate that.
Yeah.
But there's a delicate balance, because you want people to look up to artists or people who've reached success or people who are out here in the media or whatever the case may be. You should be able to look up to people like that because they made it to somewhere that you want them to aspire to make it to. Yes. But what comes with that is people are going to try to take the route you took. And if in that music you're saying the route you took was spinning the block, shooting ops, and making sure you shot your way to the top, then how do you not expect those people to do that?
Bars.
Yeah.
Bars was an example. I like that.
I know Kujo a rapper. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, I agree to that. That's why, listen, I try to shield my children when I'm around the house of the type of music that I'm playing and what I'm feeding into their spirit. That's why nothing fuels and grinds my gears more than when I see a kid's party turn into an adult party and the adults are playing these graphic, crazy songs at these kids' parties. And then you're wondering why kids are desensitized, but that's because they're rapping, like you said, about shooting up blocks with Glocks. Like, you know what I'm saying? In my household, people may laugh at me all the time, but if you call me at any given moment, it's literally ABC, apples and bananas. It's kids' box playing around 24/7. If I do want to listen to a song, I will find the kids' box version of that song and ride to it with my kids.
We did an event at a church, and she showed me all these kids' box versions and some Christian hip hop. I can bounce just as hard to those.
Listen,
I'll have to now.
We listened to you know,
it was horrible.
Gospel hip hop, like where they're praising and they're giving you inspirational words, but it still has a good beat and a good tune to it. I feel like
so you bumming a guy, you just
like it's this one artist that I listen to as well, but he got the song. He be like, "Now stop, now let's go praise God." Let's go pray. It's somewhat good beats, but again, we have to be mindful what we feed to our children's minds, because that's where they start to decipher, you know, being desensitized and their decisions of not knowing reality versus real. Like when kids are, you know, putting up middle fingers and holding toy guns like they're robbers and stuff like that in videos at the ages of 3 or 4. I mean, even as far as cursing, you know what I'm saying? Like people will make it cute, like, oh my God, my kid is cursing at 3 or 4. And then when they turn like 7, you just be like, oh, you're not supposed to be cussing. Well, how does he just make a huge switch from you let him curse to now all of a sudden it's wrong to curse? Those are implements that should have been started to begin with. And then whatever they choose to do, at least you gave them that foundation.
You know what I think is sad too, and I know it's a defense mechanism for parents because they feel bad about themselves, but when you bring up the fact that it is parents' fault, or not necessarily fault, but the parents should be doing better. I was like, well, you can't blame parents for everything because people going to do it. Okay, so why are you arguing with me at all in the first place? You don't agree with me that you can do things to protect your child more than we have been? Like, I alone will say, and I'll say it again right now, I am pledging to not listen to myself or play anything that glorifies any of this kind of action ever again starting today.
Well, I don't know, because I love little Cardi B, and I can get a little ratchet sometimes.
But she don't talk about necessarily spinning a block and killing. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's true.
As like Back in Blood used to be one of my favorite songs. Right? Yeah, I used to play it all the time. But when I really think about it, I am perpetuating the same exact things that I say people shouldn't perpetuate. I used to bang that all the time with my kids in the car. But I'm not that way, so why should I be playing it?
But also, what people fail to realize is the people that are making these songs, they're rapping about a previous life, not their current life.
Pujo is in jail right now.
But the song was recorded before he went to jail. But they have active social security numbers. They are working. So therefore, they cannot be committing these crimes, because if not, they will be in jail like Young Thug and Gunna.
Jay-Z's a prime example of that. A lot of his songs, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s, talked about when he was selling drugs, all this other stuff. Now he chilling. He making songs talking about how much he loves his kids and his wife.
I don't mind people talking about their past. especially if they
If
make
I shot
it
him
known.
yesterday and I make the song today, that's my past.
Well, I mean, but are they gonna promise that they're not gonna do it again in that same song? Like, if you tell me you've changed at the beginning, look, do a prequel to this. And listen, I've changed. I just want to tell y'all about what I did yesterday. I ain't gonna do it no more. But I did this yesterday.
No, they do need to
I
make
shot him in the head.
They do need to make prequels. Okay, so then when you look at cases like Lil Durk, right? He just got off of that charge or whatever, and everyone is like praising his lawyer, like, oh my gosh, he beat these charges. Can you believe she got her off? Is those type of things that's like, okay, so you beat a case, and then now you're gonna go rap about it and make people think that it's cool because if they hire a good enough attorney that they're gonna get off. And that's not the case in every situation.
Right. And this shouldn't be the way things go. I guess and I'll forever be a lame to anybody who's a fan of the thug life and the gangster style. I'll never be a fan of that. I didn't grow up I grew up in a hood, but I wasn't anywhere near hood or thought I was hood or none of that because I grew up in different countries. I didn't grow up here, so.
Kujo, where you from?
I was born in North Carolina, but I was raised in Germany and England.
Look
So I
at
didn't
you
get to
being foreign.
I didn't get to Detroit until I was like 8 or 9.
Being foreign.
Yeah,
what you having triple citizenship?
Yeah, I didn't know nothing about that.
How's your taxes?
You know what I mean?
But again, I truly think that it stems from the adult supervision because I know in a lot of those situations people will say, well, I didn't have a mommy or I didn't have a daddy or those kinds of things. But that's where it goes into, it takes a village to raise a child because back in the day, it was if you saw, little Billy down the street and, that his parents weren't treating him well, you offered for him to come over. You offered to help take care of him, while his parents were
back then were more pure than they are now. Now the village that's raising these kids,
that's the hard
the drug dealers, the gangsters.
Because listen, let me tell y'all something. This is another thing that just parenting and life you just gotta keep living, right? Parenting never stops. Okay. I don't know why people think that when you turn 18, you're an adult, or when you turn 21, you're an adult, and your parent is not supposed to parent you. Yep. Your parent is supposed to always parent you. I don't care if you get mad, but no, when I say parent you, I mean, when you give birth to a child, your job is to protect that child by any means necessary.
My mom went grocery shopping for me the other day, and I don't even live at the house.
Listen, it goes far more than just grocery. That means checking in with your kids. Hey, are you safe? Hey, who's your group of friends? Right. Hey, because I know for me, my parents stayed making sure they knew who me and my brother were around. Who are your closest friends?
Because
okay, you're going
here. It makes a difference. I tell my daughter all the time. It truly makes a difference. I wanted my kids to come to the city, right? They lived in the mountains in California or whatever, and I was very excited for them to come to the city. And I got white stepkids, right? So I moved out here to a predominantly Black area, and I even seen them start to change into a little more thug-esque type individuals. And I'm like, who are y'all hanging out with? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you from the country, you used to wear cowboy boots and listen to country, and now y'all coming home singing Lil Durk and Pooh Shiesty, and you know what I'm saying, acting the way you act. And I'm like, y'all need to be around different people. You need to stop worrying about what these little hood rats in your school, what they doing, and start hanging out with the nerds that are getting great grades and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's not say nerds. Let's just say the very smart, talented kids. Don't call them nerds.
I understand what you're saying about that, Kujo, but I do have to disagree just a little bit, right? Because I feel like if you do not adapt to the area that you are in, so for an example, coming from the country going, right? That country mentality is not going to work inside of the city. So I do feel like adapting.
Wait, but time out. But work in what way? What do you mean by work?
So for an example, like the things that you do in the country, you can't really do in the city or vice versa, just based off of just where you're at right now. I'm not saying completely change yourself, right? Yeah. And that's why I do understand why you're kind of just like.
Are you meaning in social standards and social situations?
Yeah.
Okay. For like social situations.
So I understand that, and I know how to code switch like the next man. I understand that. Yep. But changing your values and changing what you do for fitting into a social dynamic, I don't think that's necessary. Yeah. So like my twin boys, They don't talk to nobody. They don't hang out with nobody. They stay to themselves now. They watch anime. They do their thing. They didn't change in order to get a group of friends. Yeah. They said, that's not my crowd. I don't.
And I think for girls, it's
up.
always going to be a little bit harder than males because males, they don't care about being sociable. But girls, you know, they always care a little bit more about their reputation. And I'm not saying all girls, because I do know some men who do care about their reputation and all those kinds of things. But even with that still being said, of making the switch to the schools and all those kinds of things, as kids, they don't understand how important it is for your parents to know your friends. Know your friends' parents, at least know where they live. Know your friends' parents, cousins that surround, because that's how we're able to see all of these news stories of girl gone missing and the parents know.
Girl went missing.
Like, they're not even allowed to go to their friends' houses unless we know.
Right, and I'm not just saying our kids, I'm just saying kids in general. Yeah, like, they don't understand the seriousness of it and how important it is to have your locations on. Okay, yeah, I know you might be sneaking. Okay, get caught for sneaking, but don't get caught sneaking, end up dead, and nobody can find you because you tried to turn your locations off and be tapped off into the world. Because wherever there is a chance of you saying, oh, well, it'll happen to me, that'll never happen. Baby girl, baby boy, please believe that nothing is inevitable and it all can happen to you, me, the next Mary Jo Bob. Okay, so
I had that same conversation with one of my staff members. His school, so he goes to Oxford, and he was there when that situation happened. How close he was to it. It was his classroom, and then a classroom literally across the hall was the one that got blasted, right? And at the end of the conversation, after he explained to me everything that happened, everything that he's seen, he was like, the biggest takeaway that he got was, in his mind beforehand, he would hear about it, you would read about it, you would see it on the news, but then he never would have thought that it would happen to him and affect him and his friends. And now he goes back to school, but he can never go back to how he was thinking beforehand.
Yeah. So, and I feel like with every situation in life, and I think that's the problem that kind of turns people off. And I don't know what I was watching. I think I was watching the Dahmer story. And a lot of times when tragedy happens, or, you know, when situations happen to us, we try so hard to go back to being the person that we was before. I want to be back to normal. And in some of those situations, you will never be normal. You will never be that person, because this experience has changed you forever, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever the case may be. That's why no matter what goes on, no matter what goes on in the morning, I try not to let my son leave the house without me giving him a hug and a kiss, or all those little bitty things, because we never know when that last moment is that moment. I mean, even for significant others, cousins, family, whatever, when we leave and I get off the phone with my family, I'm all right, talk to you later. Love you. Love you too. We're giving each other hugs and kisses, because as much as we think, oh, I'm just leaving out for work, or I'm running to the grocery store, that could be the day that you get into a deadly car accident and never make it back home.
My wife's friend, like a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, back in California, she works on highways, with the construction on highways. Went to work one morning and somebody on the highway hit her.
See?
Gone. She had young kids at home and all of that. So as much as we all think you're saying,
I'm about to skedaddle.
Okay,
love y'all.
Thank you for tuning in. All right.
Make y'all listen to me on Saturday. Love y'all.
We will. Make sure y'all tune into the Legendary House of Shay on Saturday with J Man.
As much as we think, you know, neither one of us are thinking about dying right now, but we're not thinking about the fact that we're living either.
Yeah.
We thinking about what we got to do after 7 o'clock when this show is over, and we're going to go do this, and we're going to go do that, and we're going to go home, and I got to get some sleep tonight. But you don't think about, you know, there's a possibility that I won't make it to any of that.
Yeah. And I think that's the part that, you know, people are just failing to realize in a lot of these situations. They don't understand, like we said earlier, how firm death is, right? So you think that, I get into an accident, or I get into a scruffle with somebody, I'm just going to pull my gun out, I'm just going to shoot them. Oh, it's just going to harm them. No, you're taking someone's life. And then I think we need to get back to gun education. Yeah. I don't think that it should just be gun violence, because guns don't kill people. It's the education of the gun safety, and people actually taking classes on some of these gun safeties, of knowing, okay, when you draw out your firearm, What is the proper way? Because most
Right.
people hold their gun like this. Because why? I've seen it on the movie.
It's
I
a
know
kill
how to
shot.
shoot a gun.
It's a kill shot.
They think they're being cool. No, you can't shoot a gun like this, because if you do, when you shoot, it's gonna ricochet and hit whomever at whatever place. You know what I'm saying? So it
Which
goes.
is apparently what just happened to Takeoff. From what I've heard, I don't know any of it. Everything's just coming out now. It just happened yesterday morning, but I've heard from multiple sources, which all of this could be fake. But supposedly it wasn't aimed at him. It was stray bullets. Whoever was shooting, it wasn't even intended for him, which is
And
sadly
I've heard that happen a lot of times.
A lot.
Someone runs in front of the shooter because they don't know who's shooting, and they get shot by mistake. And again, these type of situations happen every single day, not even just on a mass celebrity hip hop rap world. I mean, it happens every day in the inner cities. I mean, you have 13-year-olds who get shot, who are carrying firearms. Why does a 13-year-old in an inner city even have access to a firearm?
Nobody should look. And here's where all the gun nuts are gonna go crazy and disagree with me.
Gun nuts.
I don't think anybody in America should have a gun on a daily basis or need a gun on a daily basis. Sorry. I don't think you should have to walk around with a gun. I don't think, and this is just what I think should be our world. I don't think.
Why can't we get stun guns?
What's
wrong with a stun gun?
At my
Put
house,
200 bucks in somebody. Get a
sir,
stop
Glenn
them
Davis,
real quick.
See, this is a great person to be on here. Glenn Davis. He was one of my older cats in the military that I joined with, and I just got into talking about how I don't believe anybody should walk around with guns or need guns at all in America. As a military man, I wish I didn't have to walk around that base holding an M16. I felt like that was too much power. I felt like at any moment I could have snapped and fought one of the Middle Eastern guys on base was doing something and accidentally decided to take his life. I walked around every day in fear of me making the wrong decision with that weapon, and I wouldn't have been able to take that back.
I mean, think about it. I mean, literally, what if you had a bad day? You stumped your toe on the edge of the bed.
Do you know how many people over there on our side shoot themselves with those same rifles?
Okay, do you remember that football player who shot himself and he went to jail for shooting himself because he didn't properly know how to use a firearm?
Yeah, I do remember.
The only person I know that went to jail for shooting himself
accidentally. I think he was at the club, too.
No, I thought he was at home.
Was he?
I thought he was at home and it was like a home invasion. No, that might have been a different one. I think I'm thinking of the one that it was a home invasion and he tried to get the gun out to shoot the person and I think he died. He shot a major artery in his leg.
Oh, no, so speaking of not just celebrities, right? I went and ran some numbers. So first of all, I think it's sad that we have to even have a website like this, but the website is gunviolencearchive.com or .org. I'm sorry, gunviolencearchive.org. So according to this website, from January 1st to today, the total deaths from firearms is 37,234. Homicide and accidents 17,038. Suicide 20,196. Mass shootings 577. That's more than one a day. We have more than one mass shooting a day in this country.
That's crazy. This is all over the world.
Yeah. Mass murders 31. Kids 11 and under, 272 killed, 607 hurt. And teens from 12 to 17, 1,140 killed, 3,187 hurt. Now,
that's just in the last.
This
year hasn't even ended yet. We still got a couple of more months before this year is over.
And I wouldn't be surprised if those numbers go up by a third, because the holidays always count for more. Especially around
more riffraff.
New Year's.
Because why? We're gonna have.
There he is.
There we go.
Yes, sir. Get on in here, sir.
Not very bad. I was calling your name, but that's why I
actually was ignoring it because I'm like, I didn't know I was actually serious.
I just got through reading the national numbers, and I think I showed you these briefly. But these are the numbers from January 1st to today on just general with guns, not even black on black, not celebrities, not nothing. In general, this is the death toll and the injury toll that guns have caused in our country.
Okay, I got nervous. I thought you were saying like these are the guns that I was a part of.
Yeah, Jay,
I didn't know what this show was a part of.
Jay,
Like,
we went into your home and we found that the weapons that you own have this many bodies on them. What do you have to say for yourself?
I get nervous on these type of conversations.
Okay, so far we've just been talking about. So we started off talking about media and how they should
How irresponsible they are.
Yeah, how irresponsible other media outlets for posting.
Well, not all.
Well, not all,
A lot
just
of it.
not us. But for posting
Well,
their
not
loved
just
ones.
us. It's a lot that
I can't speak for them though. I can only speak for us.
Listen, I've been in this business a very long time. It's a lot of individuals that do an amazing job. They may not, unfortunately, be in the eyes and ears of the top 10 that we always hear about, but it's a lot of individuals that take this responsibility of being behind a microphone and having a platform. They take it very serious. They do an amazing job. Salutes to my big bro, Ricky Smiley, who does an amazing job. That's just one who does have a very, very large platform.
Yeah.
But he does an amazing job. And so many others. I don't want to start naming names because then next thing you know, somebody realizes we forgot me.
We were talking about like posting final moments on the internet.
Right.
Like no one wanting to wake up and they see the last moment of their loved one being shared and reposted for clickbait.
Let me start off by saying thank y'all for calling me onto your platform. Salutes to you too. You tackle a lot of tough things. Just a week ago, you guys pushed the envelope on a different situation and a topic.
Yeah.
So it's platforms like your show, what you two do. And believe it or not, the beautiful thing about radio and this new platform that everyone has, people will listen and not tell you that they listen, right? Yeah. They have this thing now with the incognito. People can view it and you don't even know they viewed it, right? Yeah. Which I hope they change that. And also algorithms sometimes will make you think people didn't listen to your show because it doesn't show 100 views. But you'll be shocked that if people started to audit some of these servers, you'd be shocked that you had more than 100 views or you had more than that, right? So it's to try to minimize it. Because here's the thing, people click on what they think everybody else clicked on. Right. So if someone sees something that says it has 50 views, and a person's like, oh, ain't nobody else watched it, I'm not gonna watch it. Right. And then if somebody sees something with 500,000 views and not knowing, some people are paying for views, but they'll click on it just because it had 500,000 views. I just want to say that for every click that clicks on the Good Tymez Show, that clicks on this platform, they're organic. And to me, I would rather have an organic listener or a viewer than a paid for or a falsely generated. Because when you guys discuss certain topics, it make people either go to work and bring that topic up. It make people go around their friends and family and bring things up. It carries farther. And that's what media and these platforms are supposed to do. Today, the guest you had on and the topic that you all were talking about is heavy because the world really isn't ready to have these heavy conversations. We have conversations out in the lobby, but we still have not reached a level where we really are willing to really dig deep and have certain conversations.
And that's why I think it's important. And I love the fact that yesterday, so we typically, you guys know, we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday live. Princess texted me yesterday and was like, dog, I think we might need to go on air today. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to talk about this. And I agreed with her 100%. My wife and I was talking about it. I talked to my kids about it. And like I said, when I got on air today, I got a little emotional just to start with, because this has always been something that I feel like everybody's just like, oh, hands off, like it's out of our control. When in reality, we are the control. It is us. It is about us. And we're the only ones that in turn can change this. But the hardest thing for us to do is to all come together and realize that as one people, we can change it.
Right.
If we came together, all of us decided today, all 200 something million of us, or however many of us it is. If we all came together tonight.
Wow, you really think it's that many of us?
That's how many people there are in America.
Right. I was going to say, man, listen, black people still a small. I don't even think black people make up the 20% population of the U.S. census.
Well, okay, so let's say there's 10 million. I would say maybe there's 10 million, right? There might be 10 million of us. Let's say that.
Scattered.
That way, then you got to take away the people that are in jail.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, let's say 5 million.
Yeah, use your deductible on that one.
If I carried a one, if 5 million of us got together today, right, tonight, and said we changing this tomorrow, then you know for certain that there's 5 million of us that won't be dead tomorrow of our own hands. Natural causes might take some of us out, but 5 million of us are going to show up tomorrow with the same mission.
Poisoned.
Right. We don't get killed by cops, so we don't have, all the natural causes. But just from gun violence or killing each other, there'll be many more of us tomorrow to keep that fight going tomorrow.
Right.
And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. But without us all coming together, our numbers are cutting in half daily, which means there's not enough of us to rise up and fight these systems because we're taking us out, and then they're like, here, let me help you. I'll kill a couple for you. Yeah. Let me pop a couple too. Woo!
Well, but that also was, to some say, let me just put this out there. To some say, this was all a creative design, a plan, right? And so anyone that watches a plan, it takes time, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, right? It's like a network. When you build wealth, it takes minimum 10 years, right? Just to create a format, the infrastructure, right? But when you look at successful companies and their heritage and where they come from, it takes time, right? So when you look at how we view each other and what we glorify, you got to realize it took time for this to manifest to get to this point, right? Yeah. So, no one will pull up statistics or speak on how many marriages or bullying situations that cause suicide based upon if someone liked this or someone didn't like this, or my spouse went and followed someone from high school. See, no one bring up those statistics and show how it could break up households or etc. Right? Why? Because when you show that individual who owns it, he's in a tie or a shirt. They show him in a higher light, right? Yep. Most people don't watch C-SPAN channels. You understand? Nope. So when you look at us, the way we're marketed and promoted, they quickly removed us constantly seeing a Master P on TV, a Jermaine Dupri on TV, a L.A. Reid on TV, who are, executives and very smart, a Kevin Lyles. They replaced that and they began to dumb us down. And when I say they, I'm talking about individuals that feel threatened that if we are at a table, if we are an executive, we will put more on and open more doors. Talent doesn't have a color or a creed. I know white rappers and white producers just as dope as black, right? I know black producers and black writers and black executives that can be in the business for 20 years and still got to fight as if they're an intern walking through the door. Yeah. So if you look at the percentile of us that's getting killed and murdered, we're getting killed and murdered trying to go back to our neighborhoods and keep it real, right? Yeah. Everyone used to dog me years ago when I started saying, I don't have to make a change by going back to my inner city. Right. Yeah. I can make the change by buying land, opening up parks, donating to organizations that's on the ground level, etc. You need more people to play all lanes, right? All of us can't be in one area, right? You need a Malcolm just as much as you need a Martin. You need a Angela Davis just as much as you need a Stokely Carmichael. You need a Medgar Evers as much as you need. We need all of us, right? I need that person. Well, now I'm the person in the boardroom. You need me, right? We need these people. I wouldn't do no good trying to go back in the area that I know I would not be able to connect with them, right? Because the reason I won't be able to connect with them is because I'm no longer that person that grew up in the inner city 25, 30 years ago. Right. My mind is different. My thinking is different. My movement is different. Man, listen, I'm not even gonna front. If I went somewhere right now, I would be the most uncomfortable person in the room. Yeah. Right? Soon as I heard some shuffling, I hit the floor and started crawling. Like, people look at me like I'm crazy.
It's my time to go.
Reason being is because I lost all those mannerisms that I once had when I was in my teens.
And I don't feel I hold any responsibility to act or pretend like or look like I'm gangster. I never saw that as being.
And he's sitting here tatted up like, look, listen, if you saw his tat ups, you would literally think he is like.
You may think that, like, and that's a funny thing, the misconception when people do see me out, it's like, oh man, he did it. But then when you talk, now I used to get people like that all the time. That came from, coming from England or whatever. So when I got to middle school or high school, I got a little bigger or whatever, and then I started after the military. I would, come out looking how I look, like, oh, how are you? Nice to meet you. And they'd be like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't expect you to look like or sound like that. I'm like, what? You started?
Don't get it twisted. Don't think he's licensed. He still know how to kill you by the snap of his finger. Don't get it twisted. Look, he's saying that, but at the same time, he can put you in a chokehold and take your life.
That's what I was telling Princess. I was like, if it comes to put a gun down, there's not a human on this planet I'm scared of. You know what I mean? Like, I'll go to anywhere around anybody, and I'm not scared of nobody. But there's certain places where I won't go because I know just driving through that area, I can get popped.
Yeah.
And what's the point of all of that?
It shouldn't be that way. Now, listen, I fear no one but God. Right, I am a God-fearing man, so it's nothing that a human can do to me that God don't want to happen. But also, God give us free choice. God doesn't say be stupid. God don't, right? So we got to understand what free choice means, right? Just because I believe in God, well, listen, that's a dead end. Don't go down that road. Like, hello, but I don't listen. I don't fear my people, but I do feel as if we have to change our thinking. I said something earlier when we were out in the front. And I was just saying that sometimes we grow and we see new things and we try to bring people with us and they haven't grew to the point of where we are, right? Yeah. And so I used to always think every door I walked in, I could take certain people with me. Then I started realizing, okay, I can't. Right.
Yeah. Even Nip said, circle got smaller, everybody can't go.
And that's the truth. And so we have to start now in elementary, junior high, high school, changing the thinking. And how we do that is, I heard y'all earlier saying, it's the music, it's the music, it's the music. Well,
it's a
we have to separate reality to, things that are not reality.
That's awesome.
It's like when you play a video game, you get as many lives as you want. You can cut it off and cut it back on, but we still have to tell the youth that's a video game. Life is not that way, right? Yeah. It's almost this fake notion. Even when it's like now in the Little League, everybody gets a trophy, but then when you go out and you get fired for the first time, you find out, well, wait a minute, everybody else didn't get fired,
or you lost a championship,
right? No, listen. Real life is, you can be walked out of an office place and everybody else keep their job.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? You can walk into an office. Listen, I'm not joking. I've been in meetings. I've walked into some office buildings currently to this day, and people still move in their little groups. And if you don't fit in their little groups, to me, that's workplace bullying.
You ain't cool.
Good luck on trying to prove that.
Right.
But no one comes. Well, some people, but nobody goes back and starts shooting up everybody and stuff like that. Right? It does. Yeah. But it's your thinking on. Were you taught how to process things?
Right.
Yeah. Were you taught not to take everything personally?
Right.
Were you taught to process, digest, heal, let go? Do you understand what jealousy means? Envy, anger. So people walk around with so many different things, right?
Yeah.
So you could be out somewhere. And the reason I say I don't go to these places, trust me, I hang out. Anybody knows I hang out. Yeah. I get it busy, but where I used to hang out when I was 18, 19, and 20, I couldn't go back there. I lost those mannerisms. I couldn't see things the way I probably saw them back in a different day, right?
But I think that's growth.
It's growth. It's growth, but also it's the understanding that we have to keep growing. We have to let go. But then when it gets to the youth, why are we mean mugging or thinking every one of us is a threat? Well, it goes back to our teaching. Yeah. Right? It goes. You said something earlier. Me and you, before we walked in here, we said dudes got to go back to being able to take an ass with me without getting their feelings. When I was growing up, the older G's, and that's another thing. The older G's, we gotta, the older G's nowadays. Right. Everybody want to take stuff, but back in the day with me, when I was growing up, I'll never forget it. R.I.P. my guy Rick. It was a guy who was picking on me. I was riding my bike. He kept picking on me. Rick put us both in the backyard and said, "Duke it out."
Right.
Yeah.
And after it was over with, you dust it off, shake his hand. It's done. It's no more after today. And guess what? Me and that dude saw each other. We knew it was over with because the OGs. And so when I grew up, I did my little brother the same way.
Right.
You got a problem with somebody, you got this and that. Listen, y'all square it off. Let it be done. What's the problem? And all the time, it's not violent. Sometimes it's just sitting down communicating.
Right.
I've sat down with individuals and we got to the bottom of things and we realized we didn't even have a problem. It was the wrong misconception. It was people in the middle that was inflaming it and sharing the wrong. So it's how we're taught. And we got to get back to getting some men teachers because women, I love y'all, but we need men. Horrible. Stop it.
Listen.
Stop.
That's your opinion. In my opinion, even from having a younger son, I'm not saying that women are horrible teachers, but what I'm saying is women don't make learning fun. And I know that from being a woman.
All lady teachers, you can send those hate mails to
listen,
Princess. Leave Jay out of that one. I am not
my lady.
A part of that comment.
But I love my lady. But I'm gonna say the older teachers, they are stuck in their ways of teaching and certain things they are not willing to bend on. From a son who his first kindergarten teacher, he hated school. It was a female. And now his first grade teacher is a male. He makes learning fun. He jokes with them. He's cool with them, but he's a little bit younger.
I will say to defend your point though, I think a lot of times in these situations and a lot of with these single mothers, especially single Black mothers, who, the father's not around, they feel that need to teach their kids how to be men and teach them how to be tough. So they push them towards that brute masculinity. Like, don't ever let nobody punk you, this, that, and the other. So with that, and along with that man and his machismo trying to protect his mother and be the protector of the household, they gain more aggression than they necessarily need to. And everybody becomes a predator. Right. They can't see anybody in their vicinity as help or as allies. Everybody's a predator. Protect this home. So that definitely does not help. And then with our young Black man, that ego, that machismo of having to be the biggest dog in the room, like I was saying earlier, it's like that innately is a part of our culture, and it's seen.
But if we go back to men, so yes, if a man is not in the household. We need men to play more of a role. I'm sorry, that's my phone. Let me get off the table. We need men to play more of a role, right? And so, if we had more male teachers, more male counselors,
if the counselors in the school actually counseled,
the uncles, the brothers.
But let me say this though. Well, for one, we did on when I was talking about mental health the other day, only 4% of mental health professionals are African American in this country.
And do you know how much of that percent are males?
Like less than
probably
half.
0.5.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's part of the problem. Also, I think a huge part of the problem that people miss as part of the equation, even if there were, and there are still plenty of positive Black men role models that are trying to get out here in the world and put this out there. They're seen as lame. They're seen as, oh, you don't know nothing about our situation or our standard. Oh, you got all this money and you can't understand our plight.
Because they don't look.
So they're shut out. They're shut out and they're shunned. And then the younger generations tell them, don't listen to that. That ain't for you. So we need to figure out, and hopefully today is the start of this. And I don't have the answers today, but I'm damn sure we'll be working on this until the day I die. We need to figure out how to break through that fourth wall and get to the minds of these younger Black men who are coming up and let them know that it's not a lie. You can get out of this. You don't have to pick that gun up. This isn't the only way you can live. I don't care what the people in your community are telling you. I don't care what you think society has against you. Trust me, you can do it. It's
not, okay, so, and I love how you said this break wall. So everything you spoke upon, right? So, single Black mother, check, right? Never meet his father, don't know, couldn't tell you him from a man and moon, check. Entire family that was around, women, check, right? The most crime-infested neighborhood of the inner city during that time when we was the murder capital, check, grew up in it, right? So all those boxes checked, I definitely shouldn't even be sitting here, right?
The world will tell you that there's no way in hell
Well,
you should.
statistically back then, my generation that was born, we were told that we wouldn't make it past the age of 18. No, 18. They told us 18. We were the more
Yeah, I got 25.
So you got to remember, I came in the essence of when heroin had took over all of our soldiers coming back from Vietnam, and then crack rolled out. So I caught the tail end of heroin and the birth of crack, and I lived through both those segues, right? And so most people don't even know about the a lot of the stuff through the 80s and the whole movement.
I always say that Reagan's war on drugs was a tutorial.
Reaganomics.
So it wasn't a war. It wasn't a war on drugs. It was a tutorial.
It was Reaganomics, right? And so I'm saying that to say that it goes into teaching, right? And so we are very, very hands-on individuals and people. It's just our culture. It's our nature. We are limited on trust. We need to see. We need to be hands-on. So one of the things that infused me at a very early age was being hands-on. I met an individual, and I could not believe that this individual was doing what he loved, and he was Black. And so a lot of times, if we can see these things, if we can see a Black doctor, a Black lawyer, a Black teacher, a Black accountant, a Black entrepreneur, a Black business owner, a Black mechanic, a Black skills tradesman. So like sometimes if we can see these things and sit and talk to them, it's like, man, I could be that. But most of the time, we don't see that, right? And so now you got to look at the TV shows we watch and why the Jeffersons were so popping and all these shows, because it gave us the illusion that we could be. But personally, if we're not meeting these people, right? So these field trips in our schools should be more in tune, showing me all these different things. Just don't tell me about a doctor, lawyer, or a judge, or doctor, lawyer, and blah, blah, blah. It's so many other positions, skilled tradesmen, right? We don't understand what being a marketer and a marketing executive and a brand manager. Well, any kid that's grown up in the hood, if your mom only bought 2-3 pair of pants and 2 pair of shirts, and you switch with a neighbor down the street and you swap shoes with this person, you swap this, then you know how to market, design, and create a look and a feel. You know how to make an outfit look like it's 3 different outfits. Then that means you just stretch their budget. So but you just learned how to stretch a budget. So now you got to understand, we're not taught all these different things, right? And so we don't know all the different careers that's out here. A kid that's good with his hands. Okay, well, listen, you can get a trade. You can work in a lot of different fields. We don't teach them that. Kid that likes to eat and food. We don't talk to them about culinary arts school and chefs and being an executive chef and creating. I just talked to my little nephew who moved to Arizona. He called me. Can't make this up. And we were just having conversations, and he's struggling with what he wants to be. And I said, what is it that you like? He said, well, I like video games. I like, trying out different things. And I said, so why don't you take a tech class? I said, why don't you be one of the ones that create these new devices? He likes to get the new devices. He'll buy this just to see if it was better than this. And I said, well, then why don't you be part of the development of it? Right? Learn how to create these apps, create these softwares, be a part of that. He called me back like 2 days later. He found the school. He sent me the literature. I read through it. I said, man, it sounds like a good school. Go on a tour of it and see, and then ask questions and see if it fits you. But these are the things that, if we could do this to the youth when they're in elementary, when they are in middle school, when they are in parents. Well, that's what the Boys and Girls Club used to be. Stop. Yeah, no, it's not.
Well, that's what it was supposed to be.
Okay, so now I'm talking realistically in the inner city. There is, when I grew up, I didn't know what I saw a YMCA, and they turned my YMCA to a halfway house.
Right, but what I'm saying is those programs were supposed to be, even though they didn't fully get executed, but they were supposed to be other people adopting kids who did not have parents or people in their neighborhoods or in their lives to give them that insight.
I'm just keeping, so to a person right now who mother or father catch the bus to work, because a lot of people still catch the bus to work, don't have transportation, struggle with Wi-Fi, internet, so the kids got to try to find different places where they can try to do work from home or search. We got to stop thinking that everybody has all these functionalities, right? A lot of kids fell behind when COVID happened because they didn't have internet. You still have some people still making under $26,000 a year, under poverty line. So now you telling this kid, who you talking about a PS5 and Hulu and Netflix, and he like, what is that? She's like, what is that?
Got one pair of socks.
You understand what I'm saying? So we got to start showing that individual, because it's gonna sound cheesy, but I wrote in my book, before a kid ever turns bad, before a kid ever turns to bad or the wrong direction, they have screamed for help. They have tried to do it the right way. My grandson has been killing it in school. And so me and my wife took him shopping. And the reason being is because when a young man does bad, everybody want to come and be a part of scolding them.
Of course.
Everybody want to pile up. Well, you better get yourself together. What are you doing? But then when they do good, everybody quiet.
Right.
Everybody slow on. I'm like, nah, we ain't doing that. Like, if you doing good, we finna big you up so much where you like, well, I'm gonna keep doing good because I want fresh kicks. Because in life, there's rewards of doing good. But what happens is when we get so lonely and we get so lost, and I've seen it, what happened is cats be like, well, I ain't getting no love over here. But then you still got the devil that's over here sideline picketing. So guess what? When you go over here and you join that bad side, and they give you initiation, and they say, there you go. They say, yo, you got to go take somebody kicks. They come back and be like, yo, there you go.
Man, give a shot, give a beer, look at it.
There you go. There you go. So guess what? That feeling that child gets, whether it's male or female, they're fulfilling what you did not get at home. They're fulfilling that wrong teaching. You don't, and I'm just telling y'all from a lot of my home.
Nothing makes sense about
you don't join games.
True.
Well, damn, how did we get there? But
I'm
you don't
just
join game. Well, I told my daughter I would break both her legs if she ever tried to go to the pole.
I said to the girls who have low self-esteem, they go work in the club because what? Everybody there is applauding them, giving them that self-esteem.
Okay, but it's all, listen. It's also, and I don't know.
It's instant gratification in any form. It's a drug. Know
your hustle. It's some chicks that was like, look, I chose to strip because I got a great personality. I knew I could work it. I stuck to my plan, and I got up out of there after 3-4 years when I got my paper. And there's some women that love it. There's some women that's like, listen, I love, the shape of my body. I love dancing. I love having fun. It's what it is. Know your lane, right? Yeah. It's a difference in having the option to do and then feeling as if you have no option to do.
And that's what I call on when we talk about all this gun violence and the black on black crime and all that. I talk about because that, like you said, there are people, and I hate that there are, but there are people in these hoods that don't need to be, or there's people, furthermore, people that don't even live in the hood and they perpetuate these lifestyles, right? I'm talking about the kids who feel like they don't have another option.
There you go.
And can be swayed to the other way. Because if you can change those minds, now here's the real jacked up part about how America works. They sent us overseas to the Middle East, right? You know what the mission was? Change the hearts and minds of the people in the Middle East so they don't become terrorists, right? But they wouldn't send us to the hoods to change the hearts and minds of the impoverished so they don't become gangsters.
Right.
They wouldn't do that.
Right.
But what I did was I put my hand up on that Bible and I swore to protect this country, foreign and domestic, right? So I feel like my duty now is to domestically change the hearts and minds of these young black men and young impoverished people to become something great in this country and not the ones that are killing each other. And not the ones that are taking over and taking advantage of people.
So
doing those things.
I give you a challenge and I'm a part of it. Then let's do that. Let's send our troops. Let's send all of our radio people. Let's see how many. Listen. Let's see how many radio people respond to y'all. Let's put something together. Reach out to other radio individuals. Let's put a panel and let's go to these inner city schools, right? And because here's my thing. When you look,
I didn't even have to pitch it. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was actually going to pitch this to you, having an open forum kind of townhouse kind of thing set up at least once a month, where we have those panels and have psychologists come in and maybe even doctors or teachers or lawyers or whatever the case may be, and once a month invite those underprivileged kids or underprivileged young people into these forums.
We all are. At one point in time, I was underprivileged, so we got to understand that when you lack the knowledge, the resources, the information, when I look at what I thought I was doing in my teens and my early 20s, I laugh now, right? So you got to understand this. When you get individuals with out resources, knowledge, direction, proper teaching. And then they're trying to figure it out, right? That's why we're pouncing and banging on each other like this, right? Because in business, you don't think to shoot or harm nobody. You take each other to court.
Yeah.
You file a suit, right? So now, I'm fast forwarding this, right? Look at Jigga Man, Hov, Jay-Z.
Yeah.
He's suing Duce, which is the parent company is Bacardi. He's suing them. I want to see the books. I feel like this, that, and the third. The cologne company. So ain't nobody shooting it out. They got real money.
Right.
But if we teach this, so if we go around with these panels and we show individuals, listen, with the proper resources, the proper knowledge, the proper information, there's no need to harm nobody. I tell anybody all day, man, I'll take a person to court anytime. Like, I still sue people. I go to court like that's what it's here for.
Right.
But when you growing up, we're taught to run from the law. We're taught to run from the system ain't for us. Listen, it's not a perfect system, but if you're moving right and you're doing right, justice will prevail, right? And I get it. Some people say not all the time, but then that's why we keep fighting. We got to learn how to put more bills in action, put more bills on and change laws, because on these type of panels I'm talking about, just to give you a vision, put a Mayweather on the panel at the same time you put a Kujo and a Princess on the panel. Put a Envy on the panel the same time you put a Kujo and a Princess, and then you bring in, walks of different businesses, not just lawyers, doctors, or judges, but skills traders that make $100,000 a year by using their hands, AC back cats and air conditioning companies, and show that culinaries and chefs, man, just the restaurants I'm a part of, the chefs that I'm associated with make damn good money, right? Yeah. And so I'm saying that because a person like Mayweather, who I want to use for an example, will go under fire. Oh, he's always showing off his cars. You hear people try to pick up, oh, he can't read it. But let me tell you something. This man parents, listen, this man, no. See, what I'm saying is we have turned the tides of learning to view things that need to be discussed. When you talk about an individual coming from poverty, low form, underprivileged, mother, and father, and this and that, and turns his life around and doesn't drink, doesn't do any type of drugs, take care of his family, a champion. And okay, I'm lost on why people constantly pick. You don't gotta like him personally. You can say whatever you want. The discipline you gotta have to see drugs and alcohol hurt other people that you love and grow up and say, I'll never do that. To be committed, to stay focused. I always give Envy, shouts out, I knew him when he was DJ Shrimp, interning for Clue. That's how far I go back. Sky and Animal. But it's impressive when you can watch someone, utilize DJing and radio and then say, I'm gonna get off into real estate, I'm gonna get off into car shows, I'm gonna get off. Oh, yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that if we start showing the youth and these individuals, some that's locked up, some that's coming from a bad home, but also bringing the parents. What I love that LeBron did with his school was, while your kid is in school here, you can get a GED course with us too. You can get it, because here's the thing, I could teach the child all day, but if the parent is spoiled in the brain, doesn't understand growth, blockage, got hurt because they got hurt from years and trauma. They don't know how to say to their child, dream big, go after it. Right. When I was coming up, everybody in my family was 9-to-5 workers and factory workers. I was the only one that was like, I don't want to do that. And they was looking at me like I was crazy. Right. DJing ain't a job, hosting ain't a job, entrepreneurship ain't a real job. Now all you talk about and hear about is entrepreneurship. So can you imagine how far I would have been when I was 16, 17, if my family would have said, hey, this kid is different for a reason. This kid is doing things different. Let's follow behind this kid. Let's get this kid the resources. Let's send him to the proper schools. So if we start, because every kid is different for a reason, right? That kid who is good with his hands and that, but if we don't, people got to stop forgetting, as much as we know there's good and love out here, there's bad. And the devil is always hiring. The devil is always out there with his sign for hire and recruitment sign. And so when we keep shooting these kids down, when you don't listen to your kids, I saw this passage and it said, I want to say it was Albert Einstein, I could be wrong, but he came home with a letter and he handed it to his mother. And his mother read the letter and said, your son does not need to return. Get him in a better school because he is a genius. Mm. And so she homeschooled him and she worked with him. And obviously, you know, he became to be, and I think it was Einstein. If I'm messing this up, I apologize. But the moral to this story is this individual got grown, became legendary, and shaped part of this world, and was going through his old mother things and found that letter. Mm-hmm. When he opened up the letter and read it, it said, your son is retarded. Oh. Do not send him back to school because I do not have time to teach him.
Wow. I think you might be right.
We need more parents like that.
Yeah.
Don't you let no teacher, don't you let nobody tell you what your child is. If your child is not getting that hope and that motivation and that love from home, then this world will tear that child apart.
And that's the
so
problem.
When they say the village raises a child, we got to get back to raising our kids, schooling them, showing them love. Not one of my siblings, not one of my nieces, nephew, anybody that come to me, all I do is spit game. You shall not make any mistakes I made. I made enough mistakes for everybody.
My kids and everybody I know at this point, and I will admit, over the last year of me being here, it has given me the confidence and it's given me the drive to really just start giving all that game away to people. And now that's all I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you talk to me, you call me, and you talking to me about anything, I'm gonna give you all the game I got, whether you ask for it or not.
Yeah.
People get sick of it.
And that's the hard part with parenting nowadays. Parents are not sitting down with their kids, practicing homework, doing worksheets. They're looking for the schools to do all of this and then just come home and be part-time parents. I remember when pandemic first happened, and this was like before my son even was supposed to start kindergarten, but during the pandemic and summertime, I went online. There's so many like worksheets online that you can like print off. You can go to your local libraries and print them or whatever, but I printed him off worksheets to do every single day for the summertime. He hated it. He was so upset. It's somewhere on his class. But when first grade started, he's like, Mommy, I know this word because I practiced it in the summer. Mommy, I know this because I practiced. So when you give them the proper tools to set them up for achieving, they have that confidence of I'm doing great, instead of you just letting them have the whole entire summer to lollygag around, and then when school starts, now you're being mad at them because they don't understand the work or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But I mean, as a kid, you don't understand it. But from a parenting aspect, it's like I have to prepare you. And then going into the schools, looking at the statistics there, okay, so 72.3% of teachers are white. So when you trickle that down to Hispanic, it's only 12%. Black teachers is only 10%.
High school,
Asian is only 3%.
Remember, you know what's really sad? Now that I think about it, the only individual at my school that was an adult that was black, he was a hall monitor.
Yep, same with mine.
Janitor.
Mine was hall monitor, or that she worked. It was a hall monitor, and another one worked in the attendance office.
So now
they were not teachers. They were not counselors.
And we all know that we don't have much representation, you know, for kids in impoverished areas to look up to see their way out of it. We all know that. But we can still teach them that you don't have to make that leap from having nothing to having everything in a second. If you better yourself by 1% each day for an entire year, you're 65% better than you were to start that year, right?
Wait, say that one more time.
If you better yourself by 1% every day for an entire year, right?
365, okay.
Right? So why not start teaching these kids about the fact that there are levels to grow and levels to getting anywhere you want to get, instead of that fast instant gratification of go sell that Nick and you get this money, then you re-up and no, don't teach them that way. Teach them if you learn this, if you study this, if you take the time, if you put in the work, then you get to this level. And maybe it's not $1 million, but it's $150 more than you had last month, and then you take that $150, you put it in the savings, then you make $150 next month. Now you got
nobody teaches them that.
There's levels to growth,
and it's also
stop thinking money gonna solve your problem.
Yeah,
it's your thinking. If you couldn't budget $100, you can't budget $10,000. You can't budget $1 million.
I tell people that all the time. I try to explain to people that. I know you get this point. So people think that people that make $1 million a year don't live check to check. That is the biggest falsity I've ever heard of anyone I know. I've met people in LA when I moved down there after the military, living in mansions, supposedly rich, right? Because they make so much money. They have these nice cars. They have this big house. That $1 million mansion, that mortgage is very expensive. That car you leased, probably, that payment every month is very expensive.
So you need that.
The lifestyle you live is very expensive. So most of your check, even though it's $1 million, is being spent on all that lavish stuff that you now have. So you struggling just as much as I am making, $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's no different.
Your bills are just more.
You have more expensive things to pay for every month. And
creating programs that goes into the school. I know you guys are talking about like creating a panel, but going into these schools and offering these services. With Higher Learning Services, I volunteered, and we had a group where we used to go into middle schools, and we used to hold the groups during like the class time because we knew in those areas kids didn't have funding for busing or getting picked up after school.
Right.
But we would hold those classes to do like self-esteem building, workshop building, woman empowerment, teaching them how to teamwork, how to build, how to have a different perspective. But you'd be surprised at how hard it is to get those type of free classes implemented into schools. I was hoping you said that too.
I was hoping you said that because that usually is the deterrent.
Oh my gosh.
That's usually the deterrent though. People are like, oh, but it's too hard to get into these schools. They make it so hard for you. Okay, so what? If you show them how hard you fought to get into that school and let these kids know how much you tried.
Why are the schools making it so hard?
Let's not be concerned with that.
But don't forget, some schools are profit, some schools are non-profit.
But that's what I'm saying though. You can't be concerned with why that system is the way it is, because if we keep worrying about why the systems are the way they are, then we'll never be able to infiltrate and change them. We just have to do the work to get in and change them from the inside, because changing them at that large level, it's not impossible, but I think it'll take far too long, and there's not enough people banding together to change. You need somebody to work their way up into the system and get to the point inside that system and change it from the top, while we get in from the inside and change the roots of it too. You chop the head off and change the roots, and the middle will be beautiful.
Or we so that was like, whoa, what just happened here? Okay, so listen,
that was deadly.
Systems have been designed before we could read and write. Laws and things were put in place, back before we could even vote and speak on different things. So we have to be mindful, and yes, it's great to say those things like, we can get in and infiltrate the system and find the dealer, like, okay. But at the same time,
infiltrate the dealer, find the supplier.
So I can't force someone to understand me.
No.
And the time and the energy that it's going to take for me to force you to understand me, for me to try to switch your system, it's better for me to create my own system. It's better for me to sit down and work with like-minded people. Doesn't matter the race, the color, the creed. Work with like-minded people, and then we build something that is so beautiful. Energy begins to come to it. Energy is now lost, it's merely transferred. And what we keep doing is giving away our energy and our power, right? And so money has no race, creed, color, right? When you look at the violence, when you look at so many kings that we are living, queens that we are losing, kings that we are losing, and queens that we are losing. Let me repeat that. When you look at this, and I said this, right? When I asked you this question earlier, when I said, tell me, and I don't want to see no one die, and I want violence to stop, and I understand that in this world, you're going to have good, and you're going to have evil, you're going to have bad, you're going to have miserable people, you're going to have lovers, and you're going to have haters. It's what it is, right? But when you look at the past 10 years, and if I said count me out, 10 platinum selling, high level white rapping artists that have been taken away from here with gun violence, we will all draw a pause.
Yeah.
Right? But if we say platinum selling, high level black artists that died by gun violence, we could just start running them down the line.
It's a bundle of them.
60 of them right now.
But if I say, show me an award show where Justin Timberlake was going at Adam Levine, you couldn't. If I told you to show me where Christina Aguilera wanted to go at Britney Spears or Britney Spears wanted to go, you can't, right? And so now you got to ask yourself, why are we so easily provoked? Why do we dislike one another? Why can't we trust one another? Because then you got to also look at how we've been infiltrated our whole lives. You've had from the beginning of time one that wanted to start something that's not, and somebody goes behind their back and kind of, why do we undercut each other? Why don't we understand that we are kings and queens? Why don't we value each other? Why don't we believe that we're smart? If right now we went and told somebody something, they would probably go and fact check it to a white person or another person, right? To undercut us because they don't believe that we have the knowledge and we have the wisdom, right? I get that a lot, right? I watch people with less credentials, less experience, get put in positions, but then they want me to cater and teach and guide and hold the hand, right? Because they just is in some way don't want to give me that executive title, right? It's hard for them to accept direction and leadership from us, right? You have to keep asking why. Like, why are we put in these positions?
That happened to me as a cook at a Greek restaurant.
So when you say we all have to come together and we have to unite, it starts in the household. So it starts whether it's an uncle, a cousin, a father, a mother. It starts in the household, right? Hey, King, you have a great day. Teaching us how to be worthy of ourselves. Our women, same thing. Teaching us how to be worthy of ourselves, right? Hey, you a queen. Hey, you are the plant base of this home. You are the foundation. If you don't love that young man before he goes out, he's not going to love himself. If you don't teach him the worthiness and the value of a black man, he's not going to know how to love another black woman. He's going to have commitment issues. He's going to have all these different issues. And then you're going to find out he's going to have more excuses. Do you know how many young men start off with excuses and his parents and his mothers, they don't nip that in the bud, and then you allow it when they get in their 40s. And then it becomes another woman's problem. These wives and girlfriends are not meant to raise these men. So we got to get back to raising our men, loving our men and giving them worth. Because once you have worth, you don't fall for BS. Let me finish this. Once you have worth, you don't fall for BS. The man that I am now today and the understanding and the appreciation and evaluation, when I first went back to school, everybody laughed at me, didn't understand it. Dude, you in your 30s, man, you already get money. That's dumb. Why this? Why that? It's the same individuals now asking me to help them with paperwork or calling me. And here's the thing that's crazy about that. It's because I was not afraid to submit to the fact that I needed change. I needed to know something better. I needed to learn something better. But it goes back to what I said earlier. We are hands-on experienced people. We are show me type people. We've been bamboozled so much. I need to see.
Right.
And I always had the privilege. God have always blessed me and opened up doors. And I had the privilege multiple times to go sit with individuals and see that this is what they do for a living. Wow, y'all do exactly what it is I want to do. Meet their families. Understand that they don't even know what crime and shooting is.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, I'm on it.
Let me ask you this though.
I'm out of here.
Let me ask you this though.
It never went back.
Was it?
That's the winner.
No, was it you finding what you wanted to do and those doors opening and you being able to sit with those people that got you to where you are, or was it being able to sit with those people that cleared up what you wanted to do and showed you what path you wanted to be on? Or did you personally have to figure out what you wanted first and go get it? Or did you kind of come into it by seeing those individuals doing certain things and figured out, I want to do that?
So it's in your heart, it's in your soul. Whether or not you're afraid to speak it because you think somebody's going to laugh at you or make fun of you. I always knew I was going to be doing something working around people, somewhere around media, marketing, management, speaking, talking, financial. Like I was just driven to that, right? As a young kid, I was reading the Black Enterprise. I was, going to the library, reading up and taking documentaries on entrepreneur. Like I was different. I was always different, right? So once I found individuals that like really was, and I don't want to blow them up and put them out here, but I became a pest. Like whether or not they wanted me around them, and I'm sure back then, now that I look at it, they're probably like, why this dude just be popping up and coming around? Like, yo! But I was thirsty. Like, I'm like, listen, y'all know something that the cats I grew up around don't know. Right. Y'all know something that I'm reading these books. I need to know. So consistency and persistence turned into, hey, Jay, would you like to do X, Y, Z? Absolutely. And once they gave me that crack in the door, it was a wrap.
And ready for your
listen, when I tell you they gave me that crack through the door, now, here's where I'm saying it's the surrounding, it's our teaching, it's our household, this and that. It wasn't deemed as a career back then. It wasn't viewed. So I didn't have people that had vision, understand, chase your dreams, believe, stick it out, etc. Right? I thought I could take everybody with me. So I had dudes that wasn't reading, wasn't on their A and Q like me, like they P's and Q's like me. And so then you try to give opportunities to other people. They drop the ball. And so I learned at a very early age, at 24, that when you are the plug, when you are the connect, when it's your blessing, you might not want to share it so loosely. Because when other people drop it, ain't nobody talking about them. They looking at you.
Exactly.
So no one came and said, Jay is great at what he does, but the guys he hired suck. You know what happened? Jay sucked.
Trust me, I know. So I had to go through that when I got out of the military. And as you were talking, I was just kind of thinking about my journey as well. And it's wild that when I got out, everybody was like, it's funny. The military is kind of like a impoverished black home. When you say you want to get out and go do something different, and look at you like you are insane.
Really?
Like, what do you mean you want to get out the military? Go do what? Go out there in the world and do what? You crazy. So when I told them I'm going to LA, I'm about to get this music thing to try. I'm creative. Before I die, I almost died in the military a couple times. I did die once in the military, in the hospital.
Jeez,
right? So when I got out, I was like, before I die, I want to get this music thing a shot. I might be able to make it. So when I got to the point where people were interested in me and I was, things were happening, whatever, that didn't work out. I came home and I'm like, I'm still going to do something that has to do with this industry. That's what I'm doing the rest of my life.
Right.
And listening to you talking as I'm sitting here on our radio show at the network, I'm like, wow, I did do. Like, I guess I didn't realize it till today.
Yeah.
I got out the military in 2012 and I said I was going to make it in this industry. And damn, look at me.
Now, also in this, because it's so much. Look, I would need a whole show to do this, but it's something that
shows, man.
It's something I want to touch on before I get. So, long story short, I had to learn very, very at an early age. But once I realized the knowledge that I had in my heart, the passion I had in my heart, I had to put the books behind it. So yes, I went back to school and got every certification and every degree you could possibly think of. But inside of that, it allowed me to sit at tables and not just be at the table. I could follow the table and direct the table because now I understand business. I understand how to connect the debts. I understand the financial reporting of it, the P&Ls, the income to debt ratios, the funding of it, how it goes, putting together the proper business plan, what should go inside of the
terminology can get you a deal or get you looked at crazy.
Your IP, right? Locking down your IP and all these different things. And so inside of that, I've always been able to meet very inspiring, influential individuals. And one of them in particular taught me something very, very early on. And it stayed with me. He won't. I'm not saying his name. So he literally set himself to only make a certain amount every single year. And it was that, and I taught my kids this, and he talks to them about it all the time. it's that living off that 30 or 35% of what you make, right? So so anyone that's listening, if you make $100, you technically don't make $100. Don't forget IRS want their portion, right? So if you make $100, you need to learn how to live off of $30, right? Now, out of that 70, you need to learn how to do something with it, right? Whether it's investing it, whether it's creating passive income, but it's paying it forward. And you have to learn how to pay it forward for generations, because each generation we should work smarter and not harder, right? And so we have to learn how to leave things behind. We got to learn how to set up trust. We got to learn how to set up the proper fundings. We got to learn how to set up the proper portfolios. So when we leave here, we're leaving not just the life insurance policy, but we're leaving monies. We're leaving upward of abundance behind, right? Because what that does is that allows the next generation to say, I'm not starting from zero. Right. I'm starting from this. So he would always tell me, like, Jay, I make anywhere from $225 to $250 a year. And now this was, mind you, when I was younger, I was like, man, you're rich. He was like, I'm wealthy. And I didn't get it, right? So when I got older and I started understanding money, and I'm like, millionaires and billionaires, and I'm like, so I remember asking, I was like, man, why you tell me you wealthy? You're talking about you only make $225, $250. He was like, that's what I make, what I bring home. Right. He said, what I make, I chop it up and I'm paying it for. He said, accounts, portfolios, passive income, land, real estate. He said, so I bring home $225 to $250 a year. I said, and so it took me a minute, right? Because I'm like, man, I had to break it down, right? Like, I didn't get it. But then he started explaining to me how he take vacations with his family, how he gets to chill with his kids, and him and his wife get to see the world. How he don't miss no games of his grand, like just a real good friend of mine, right? And I learned so much from him. And I always remember him telling me that, like, so yes, I'm wealthy beyond my means. So we got to teach our kids and our youth, what is rich, what is wealthy. Wealthy is one, producing and making sure that you're paying it forward, but it's a mind state. Because I know some people who make money and they held captive to it. They can't have fun with it. They can't enjoy it.
It's a stressor. Every time the phone rings, they have heart attacks and all sorts of.
Or it's what you said, is people that spend it as quick as they get it, and now they're a slave to their money, right? They can't leave a contract if they wanted to, because they're afraid to drop their image.
They can't afford life.
Bingo. So I had to start learning, like, man, and so I would watch him, right? And I'm like, he wouldn't be in like no Bentleys and all that. He wouldn't, but he would show me pictures of them over in like amazing countries. But around here, he would just have his normal cigar. He would have, and I'm like, yo, and so I picked up so much game from my G.
Look at what's the guy, Bill Gates. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even when Steve Jobs was alive, he was literally in khakis and a shirt and Toms and his TED Talks. Like, I mean, that's how you market.
I bring this up all the time. I'm not a huge fan of Mark Zuckerberg by any means, but there was one thing he said in an interview.
I'm just shocked that you could say his last name. Go ahead.
Because I was around. Look, I was in college. I was in college when Facebook came out. Facebook started as a college website. You couldn't get on Facebook unless you had an EDU email. So I've been on Facebook since the day it dropped for college students. I felt like I was very.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Privileged. If you watch the movie Social Network, I was in privy to all that when it was happening.
Wow,
it was incredible. But he said something. They asked him.
Yeah. I wasn't privy to nothing but crack back. Look, that's the only thing. That's the only reference. Like, well, when I was growing up, boy, I tell you, that crack was on the block.
When you first started making it, we didn't even have Pyrex. But he said they asked him why he always wears the plain gray shirt or whatever color he wears, and he goes, "When I wake up in the morning, most people spend 5-10 minutes deciding what outfit to wear that morning." He goes, "I know what I'm going to wear already, so that 5 or 10 minutes can be used to innovate, to think about things that are going to change the world or change my settings. I don't need to bother myself with what to wear to look better for people." So if more individuals stopped worrying so much about their outside appearance, then they would have more time to work on themselves inside.
Now,
work on their mental fortitude.
Here's a flip side to that. Of course he can say that.
Yeah.
As a black man, let me tell you something. my nephew, this is a true facto story, just learned a valuable lesson. The days that I am in light meetings or around the media sector of my day, I may dress down. But typically I'm always casual in business class. So I just took my nephew, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. It's a venture that we are embarking on, and he's at that mind state too. I should be able to wear what I want to wear, look the way I want to look, blah, 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 blah. And here's the thing, I don't believe in diffusing young people, because sometimes if I speak it, you may not 100% believe. And some things in life I can catch my family and loved ones from, and some things I gotta let them bump their head or let them see the harsh reality of life. Now, me being out here all the time, I already know my black ass can't walk in meetings like other people. I can't, right? I know guys right now that walk into meetings with jeans and a t-shirt on and taking serious. Yeah. I can't do that. You know when you can do that? When it publicly says you're worth $1 billion. And everybody know who you are. Right? Oh yeah. That's the only reason Jay-Z ass can walk into meetings looking like
with his hair, however.
Right? Well, now hold up. Don't talk about my hair. He's $1 billion.
Just saying. He looked like Cynthia from the Rugrats.
Stop it. Hove, I didn't say that. And Jay Brown, please don't throw my email in the trash, because I'm working on some things.
I'm sorry.
See, that's why I don't come on here. Y'all will get me in trouble. I am the corporate cat now. Y'all will get me in trouble.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Certain styles.
So let me tell you. So this is what happened. So we go to create this account. Now, mind you, I'm being multiple. And he goes there without me. I'm like, look, go open it, set it up. I'll go another day and add myself to it. He called me back. He's like, man, you know, blah, 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 blah. All right, I'll meet you there. All right. So I get there. He got on jogging pants, hoodie, full beard, right? You know, and it was just very, very unpleasant, right? And now here's the thing. I don't ever really tell people what all it is I do or what. Right. Because I don't think I should have to, right?
Nope.
I shouldn't have to walk around with a resume or a breakdown, right? So I already knew the questions that this lady was asking and her approach and her anatomy and certain things. It was not professional. Yeah. Very unorthodox. Nowhere around the book was she asked. If he would have walked in like I walked in, you know, slacks, shirt, tie, V-neck, sweater, smooth. Yeah. He walked in and she probably assumed, okay, they're doing something illegal. Right. Maybe this, I don't know what she thought. Probably, right? So soon as we set the account up, which she should have knew we wasn't that, because the account that we were setting up and the thing that we were doing and lining up, an ordinary person doesn't even know this type of stuff, right? So soon as we walk out, I told him, I said, you do know the next few deposits is going to be flagged and the account is going to go on hold and they're going to, and he was like, really? I was like, yeah, just watch. So sure enough, deposit goes, boom, on hold. I mean, this whole crazy fiasco, right? And so the lesson I was trying to teach him, and which you were saying with Mark, we still haven't reached that level where we can play on the field like everyone else. Right. Let's be mindful that we will always be watched. We will always be suspect. We will always be, the underdog. Right, scrutinized, the underdog. But use that to our advantage. When I go to meetings, I'm always 5-10 minutes early. I'm always over prepared.
Don't give them the satisfaction.
I already know what angles they're going to try to come at me. Like, I study it, and when we got to learn how to win a room, know our stuff, and hold our position. And when you are not respected at the table, leave the table.
Now the other side of that coin, I know I can't go out in a gray shirt like you're saying, absolutely. But what I do is I already know that, right? So now I have predetermined in every situation where I'm going, I have that predetermined. So I still don't have to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes trying to get ready and figure out what I'm gonna work, because I know I need that time to make sure I am working on my mental and working on my emotional, you need to, more than other people, we have to emotionally and strategically plan for any of these situations. You can't just go into it thinking that suit is going to get you in the door. You're going to be able to knock it apart. Because once you get into that door with that suit on, you got to know what to say. You got to know how to talk. You got to know the jargon. You got to know the
walk the walk
to a certain extent. You know what I mean? So I think you and I and Princess and everybody here that we have on our team, and this is why today was so important for me. I wanted to talk about these things so strongly. I think our call to service has started.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely our time to go out and do what everybody else is afraid to do, to go be the taboo, to go be the ones to show people that it is possible.
So now I got a task for you, right?
Don't.
You know,
I did a year servicing, talking to the youth at juvenile correction facilities. And the sad part is that a lot of the individuals that's set to be released, they would love to hear individuals giving them motivation, direction, speaks. So it's trapping from both ends, right? It's trapping those that's in that predicament and talking to them and helping them change that mental. And then it's trapping those before they walk out of these facilities, getting them prepared, right? And so I don't know if trap is the right word, but preparing, I would say, is preparing, right? Because what you just said, and processing this, processing that. Well, if we taught the youth how to process, we wouldn't be whipping guns out on each other. If we taught each other how to process and understand everything, but that goes to our work either. If I don't believe my life is worth anything, why would I care about your life?
Right, and that's why
you get what I'm saying.
That's why I keep and I talk about mental health a lot, and I feel like, and like I was talking to Princess earlier, she's like, it's good to have these conversations, and I'm like, yeah, but conversations end. The work on these fronts can't ever end. It has to be continued.
Absolutely, man.
A lot of times people
have them in the suburbs. I'm there.
Man, I'm telling you. Right? Hey, look,
I'm joking.
Me too. You ain't gonna look.
Put me on the Zoom camera. I talk all day.
We can do virtual Zooms. You know, that's the thing.
I'm joking.
I'm joking. Representation. You know what I'm saying?
I'm joking.
Listen, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I mean, and all jokes aside, as it stands today, I don't feel safe going down to an area like that in my nice vehicle with my nice clothing on to speak to. That's they're gonna be like, get out of here.
That's what you're gonna find out. Like, you know what
I'm saying?
So people don't know this, but now you're gonna find out why. You know, it was very important for my family to have a security agency.
Yeah. Top flight security of the world, Craig.
I'm not gonna act dumb and act like I can just go walk around here because right now I can't.
Look, I look.
Neither can other people. That's their problem.
And so, you know, I laugh and I'm very private about a lot of things. But no, you know, in this world, man, you gotta be solid as possible. We go out, we don't mean no harm to nobody. We don't look to harm nobody. But that doesn't mean that people is gonna like everything we say, is gonna rock with everything. It could be people holding grudges, dislike you, whatever it may be. So once again, God gave us free choice, right? So we all got to be mindful. You know, we all got to understand that alhamdulillah, like we can't go out here and move. However, we got to be mindful. We got to be on our cues. You dig what I'm saying? And although we give that love and although we give that praise, we still got that freedom of choice, like that next man or that next woman, right? And so when you move, you got to move right. Secure your path. Make sure your lane is good. I can give love, but I can also make sure that my circle, my surrounding is protected. You know?
Because you also have to understand the type of people that are around you. If you are those type of people that, well, I'm just saying for myself, I'm not gonna say naive to life, but just a tad bit to where like when you go out, you don't think that people will do you harm. Like you're out to have a good time. So therefore, I need to have other people who are watching my surroundings because as much as I'm just out like, oh, you need to have somebody watching your back at all times. It doesn't matter
more into that on my first series. See, I'm trying not to give away too much because we got now here comes a shameless plug. Jay the Great presents Who I Am. And I got an episode on there where, you know, I discuss what you just discussed, you know, and so I'm gonna get more in depth of why, you know, I became a part of a lot of different things and why I moved the way I moved, but also from a criminal justice standpoint, how involved and rooted I am in that. And then business, you know, building a foundation for my family, a format for my family. You know, that episode is going to kind of make everything make sense. And hopefully by that time, you know, we get out, you know. So my challenge to you is start calling up some of these juvenile detention centers and saying, listen, we're not looking to be paid. We want to come in and talk to the youth and spark their motivation. Because if a 6, 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 14-year-old, or 18-year-old can sit and look and talk, all they got to do once they start talking to us, they realize like, hey man, we've lived life. We've been in those positions, and people will be shocked where a lot of us come from in the situations we may have been faced with, but you can make it through, right? The all it takes is 30 seconds to jack your entire life up. That quick wrong.
Sometimes one.
Yeah, that's true.
So when it comes to, I'm working on doing some kind of suicide prevention group or whatever the case may be for veterans, and I want to call it 1 second.
Okay.
Because all it takes is 1 second to pull the trigger and make that fatal mistake, right? That's true. 1 second. It can take you a lifetime to build a life for yourself. It takes you 1 second to lose it all.
And that, listen, that is that hurts. Man.
1 second gets you up in jail.
And I agree with you. And I think, and not just to be transparent with everybody, I'm not talking about me going down to the hood and talking to the kids and the youth in the hood. I'm not going there. I'm sorry. I talk about all of these rich folks that try to stay in the hood and they get killed in the hood. I'm not doing that, but I will be able to provide as much conversation as I can from the safety of where I'm at. I'm talking about me.
I know, but because I don't want you out here talking about. I don't want anybody to think that we're afraid of our people. All right, we're not afraid of.
I'm afraid of anybody who doesn't value my life. Because I don't want to die. I'm not going to try. I don't need anybody's blessing in life to think I'm cool or I'm giving back to my people. I don't know none of y'all personally.
I'm afraid of bad.
You know what I mean? So what I'm going to do is from where I am in my life, I'm going to do whatever I can from where I'm at.
Right.
I'm never going to put myself in harm's way to try to seem like I'm.
And there's dope ways we could do a lot of things.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We could.
Plenty of ways for us to do that.
Here's the thing, like to put it. Okay, so
we can hire the police officers to go down there.
Would y'all stop? Like, listen, y'all gonna get me in trouble on the show. Listen,
we're just kidding.
Okay, first off, let me put the corporate spin on it.
Here we go.
So, what Kujo is basically saying is that to give a change of atmosphere, to give the kids or the young adults a view in what their life can be, we will bus them to a better environment so they can feel relaxed and comfortable, but also see a different way of living and see that this is just not on TV or movies. This is real life. We can show them, you know, a 6-course dinner where people wait on them, and then show them beautiful neighborhoods and show them individuals that work in different industries that they may have questions for. That is the corporate spin of what Kujo was trying.
Yeah.
Hey, so
I ain't coming down there. I'm like, holy moly.
Exactly what
so I just thought, as you were saying that, Mr. Corporate, as you were saying that, we should figure out some sort of initiative to these underprivileged schools where the winning class of whatever this is comes to Barbarona for dinner one night or something.
That's dope.
Bring them all out there for something, sponsor that
initiative.
We'll
stuff
put
like
something
that.
You know what I'm saying? Something.
I mean,
that
great restaurants like that, great establishments, showing great hotels, 5-course or 6-course meals.
Showing etiquette.
Yeah.
Because my parents, they used to teach us etiquette, you know, no elbows on the tables, but like kids don't have etiquette like skills anymore. So when they go out to dinner, they don't even know what a salad fork is or the eating fork or how to fold your napkin, how to properly eat or all those kinds of things. What a wine glass is, not grabbing it like it's a, you know.
But also, the reason I say that, and I said, let me put a corporate spin to it, like, I'm a cool cat. I could talk and joke and laugh, and I like to laugh and joke and hold my yards. But I also keep it real. Like, I just remember being that kid that, you know, when these individuals would come and they would drag us to the auditorium, and then this dude would be up on the stage talking to us. It's like, dude, you talking that talk, but when I leave out of here, but I can say that if they would have bust us out to an area that I had never saw, or bust us out and showed us a different way of living and eating, I'd have been like, yo, like, people live like this.
So even me not even living in an impoverished, so I lived in the suburbs or whatever, but if you know,
holy moly.
Yeah, you couldn't tell? My goodness.
No, I could tell. You sound like 2K. Go ahead. You sound like 2K.
But here's the thing, though. In the suburb I grew up in, there was still the poor portion of the suburb. Yeah. It was still an apartment complex that looked like you took it out of the hood and stuck it in the middle of some middle class folk. So sure. Listen, I stay in the hood of the suburbs. It's still not the hood. Listen, okay. Hood, I don't hear gunshots and screaming. There was ambulances done. We'll talk off air about some of my experiences in the suburban. But you said you stayed in the second portion of the, like, you stayed in what they call the D in the sense now. Yeah, pretty much. Well, so you see what I'm saying? Well, so even where I was coming up from, I would go to the lake side of, that area with certain school trips and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And even me, even though I was going to school with these cats, I wasn't afforded those things. So even me seeing those things helped me be like, you know what, I could do that too. Even though I wasn't down in the worst of the worst, I wasn't bad enough. And it's even worse for me. And I can say this suburban, you might think I'm crazy for saying this, but I think it was even worse being in the room with them, but still not being able to eat what they eat and having it in your face all the time, and it still isn't available to you when it's right there and it is accessible. Yeah. I think sometimes that ignorance is bliss, but it's just nowhere around. You don't even see it. So everybody's in the same swimming pool. Yeah. But when I'm in this swimming pool in the shallow end and I can't go to the deep end, and it's all goodies in the deep end, but I'm not allowed to, and it's right there. I think that really irks you. And not a lot of times, I've seen a lot of people in my position in that school do some real shady shit. Well, peer pressure. Yeah. Right. And I feel like you have it. It's right here. You wave it in front of my face all the time. So I kind of understand to a certain extent why these young cats are shooting rappers and robbing them for their chains. It's in my face. I'm a rat, and you holding cheese in my face. I'm gonna get the cheese. It's peer pressure, you know right? I mean? So no matter how we view peer pressure, so like we have this small notion that peer pressure is I didn't want to drink, or I didn't want to smoke, or I didn't want to have sex, and you pushed me to that, right? Right. That's why, like, when I come across older dudes and they're teenagers and they're virgins, I'm like, salutes to you. Save yourself for that right woman. Salutes to you, dude. You a king. Don't go spraying your seeds everywhere. When I talk to a person, they say, look, I don't want to drink, I don't want to smoke. Don't do it. Don't ever do nothing that forces you or you are uneasy on. That uncomfortable and that motivation that's supposed to drive us is not supposed to be something that is going to haunt us either, right? And so we got to understand the difference. When you talk about that, these wrong cats or people that's trying to celebrate life, and we got one person looking at them, that peer pressure is because nobody taught that individual, look, you can work and get the same amount of things that this person can get. You can work and get more. You can work. And so it's all of this pressure, right? Back in the day, you used to say, keeping up with the Joneses. Like, we have to know how to carve out our own lane, right? Everybody is not going to sound the same, look the same, dress the same, vibe the same. That's why I love the era I came up in, because the era I came up in, none of us wanted to have the same outfit or whatever on when we walked up in the spot. We all wanted to be different. That era, it was calling people suckers. Right. Hey, man. You did? I'm telling you. Sucker than a dead sucker. Hey, listen. Look, to be honest to you, like, I miss those days. Like, either you got slapped up. This was back in the days, but you made it home at night. Right? Yeah. You might have had a black eye, but you was in your bed. Yeah. And just to piggyback, I just want to say that, look, I'm not too far behind you, by the way. What we're seeing is we got to figure out a way to change the mental. So violence is not the first notion, right? It's okay to be embarrassed. It's okay not to be the coolest person all the time. It's okay to swallow that humble pie and fall back. We got to teach those things. We got to change that mindset. And it's certain rooms and certain tables I sit at. I'm not the smartest cat. I'm not the most wealthiest cat. I'm not. And guess what I do? I sit and take notes. I got this thing on my phone. It's called Notes, right? Let me tell you. I don't do like Kanye and tapping in my. It's called Narc. I record everything. Listen, it's called Notes. Yeah. And all I do
is take notes all day. I gotta make sure I ain't put my
No,
pencil
you're
in.
not on camera.
But
You're not on
listen,
camera.
all I do is take notes when I'm around smarter individuals and individuals that have done it. So it's people that talk, and I just told a young person, I don't want to throw her out there, but you know, she's new around us, and I just told her, I said, sometimes you have to check the sources. Ask them, have that, because some people come around you, well, such and such did that. Why not? Have they done it before?
Where they at now?
Have they, right. Don't tell me what you did do. Are you still doing it? Don't tell me what you had. Do you still have it?
Somebody came in bringing us saying names and all of that. Me and Princess both were like,
because here's my thing, like
I don't.
Whether Jay Great talks it or say this, I've been around for a while, and you know, quite frankly, if you've never managed, you know, multiples of dollars, then you couldn't possibly understand the lane or the mind space that I'm in, right? Like it's what they say is levels to this, and so you can't like the accountant that does a 60,000 year salary with 70,000 can't handle a 250, 500,000. You need a different person that can make sure you ain't losing, that you meeting certain tax brackets. When you when you hit that million hookup, you need a different person. You dig? It's levels to this, right? The planning and the structuring and to understand how your finances got to be set up and how you got to lay it out. It's levels to this. So when I go around those individuals, I shut up and I listen. You dig? And quite frankly, if a lot of us did that,
we'd be father.
In the household, our kids and our young siblings wouldn't see so much rage or hurt or how we, right? So when a kid sees their adults or their loved ones take anger or bitterness the right way, then they move that way. They move that way. But if they see you F that person or I'm gonna smell that, well, guess what? You passing on these traumas and these actions, right? And so you gotta learn how, like in every way, I constantly push the change, and we just gotta learn how to make sure that we passing the right thing down. And listen, it's okay to ask for help. Like, listen, if you say, look, I'm doing this, I want to make more. That don't make you less of a man or less of a woman. That makes you better. I ask questions all day. Like, listen, I just told y'all on this show, starting earlier on, I was a pest to cats because they were doing it the right way. They wasn't running from the law. They had legitimate LLCs. They was filing income taxes. They was living their best life. And I was like, yo, y'all doing what I'm reading about. Right. I'm showing up at y'all doorstep every single day.
It doesn't always have to be somebody older than you. I have 2 people in this room that I'm a pest to all the time.
Oh, stop it.
Y'all know things that I don't know. Sometimes
and you know
I'm like,
that we know.
What y'all, you know,
and I think that's a huge part of it too. And I mean, we're running a little bit of time, but people learning from people being able to learn from the youth, because a lot of times in these situations, you have older people who are stuck in their ways who think, oh, because I'm older than you, I can't learn from you. And it's not necessarily just because you're older that means you know more or you're wiser, but no, I'm not looking at him. I'm just talking about people. I
want y'all to learn everything because I'm ready to start retiring.
Right. Look, he's trying to
brother getting tired out here. But also, I just want to, while you shake it up, I just want to say this real quick, Princess. Be mindful that there's some people that love what they do, and I just want to shout back out all the strippers. Cinnamon is girls like y'all that save a lot of households because some of these women is like, oh, would you get out the house?
They're like therapists.
They doing one-on-one sessions.
But sometimes it ain't cheaper than therapy though, depending on how you're doing it. Stay out the boom boom room, fellas.
Hey, I'm trying to tell you. Listen,
oh man,
time for the.
It's a lot of wives that's like, go do your stop, so when you come home, you defuse a little bit. Trust me.
So here's the scary part. This has been all over the place, and these usually
align.
They typically align very well with what we're talking about that day.
We do a positive quote of the day that sometimes every time we pull it, it somehow wheels back the whole entire topic.
I don't know where y'all get that from, because y'all didn't used to do that.
I don't know where you got it from.
Boy, I tell you.
There used to be a show on our network that did affirmations.
I'm coming back next week. I will be back next week.
I don't know what happened to that show.
Something about the 4 to 7 slide and the 1 to 4 that just gives
it, I think the chairman decided that show wasn't worth it. So
holy moly.
Wow.
Okay, what does it say?
Success is not final. failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts.
There you go.
Let's
Reread
see
that.
that show.
See?
Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts.
Wow.
It
Oh.
always, I'm telling you, these
It
always
always
somehow
comes
end up
around.
coming around to exactly what we're talking about.
That's spot on.
So take that word,
Yeah, I'm gonna post that.
use it. flip it.
And I meant to say earlier, Jason Tatum, his mom did that. He did a whole like TikTok, and he was saying how his mom, when he was playing for the Boston Celtics, would not let him spend his Celtics money. He could
There you
only spend his sponsorship endorsement money.
Wow.
So it made him work harder to go out and get endorsement
Getting
money
more
as
dollars, so he
his
has some cheese.
spending money, because she was like, "You're not spending your Celtics check," and that was $32.6 million a year
Mhm.
that she was not letting him spend.
My wife don't let me spend my network checks. She
There you
make
go.
me spend my other checks.
That's
And
why you better be
And
happy.
he was 24.
That's why you
He's
better be
24.
nice to your kids.
Right.
That's true. That's
To
true.
lead, baby.
So listen, guys.
Better be nice to them three little rascals. They sick.
Like we always tell you guys, it's been fun.
It's been true.
It's been so freaking real. I'm your girl, the princess of all.
I'm Kujo Speak.
And shout out to our special guest, Jay the Great, for coming
And the other
in.
guests.
Woo! Oh,
And
Jamin. Yeah, Jamin from the network.
Y'all are here for good Saturday.
On camera.
No,
That's
it's just
right.
that
There we
shirt.
go. There we go. Boom.
Oh, that's cold.
No, you
That's
do
cool.
not. Okay, y'all. Listen, we're gonna wrap up playing a little bit of Migos for our hum and offset. So
Rest in peace,
um,
Takeoff.
I am your girl, the princess of all.
I'm Kujo Speak.
Until tomorrow for Think About It Thursday and Fashion Friday. Ladies, stay pretty.
Thanks, stay king.
Deuces.
Bye, Alicia. Quick. All right, y'all.